Simplified Islamic Laws for Youth and Young Adults. Subtitle: According of the Fatwa of Hadrat Ayatollah al-Uzma as Sayyid al-Hajj Ali al-Hussaini as Sistani. Condensed version of the Islamic laws in accordance with Ayatollah al-Uzma Sistani. The text has rulings on Islamic jurisprudence. All basic topics have been covered, including Taharat, Salat Fasting Khums Rules related to trading, eating, and drinking, marriage. These topics have been discussed in detail with all common rulings that are required by people. Get PDF 3, get EPUB 4, get Mobile 5. A summary of the life of Ayatollah al-Uzma as Sayyid Ali al-Hussaini as Sistani. What is birth and studies? Ayatollah Sistani was born in 1349 AH 1928 in the month of Rabi al-Awwal in the holy city of Mashhad, Iran. His noble father was one of the devout ulama of his region, and in order to help his son continue his Islamic studies and to gain a deeper knowledge of the Islamic sciences, his father exposed him to the ulama and scholars of the Hawza Ilmiya. He took his introductory Arabic studies, including eloquence balagha, from one of the renowned teachers of Arabic in Khorasan by the name of Muhammad Taqi ibn Nishabari. He also studied fiqh, usul, mantiq, and aqid under the great ulama and teachers of Khorasan, and in that same city took part in Darzi Kharij, the highest level of studies in the Hawza. At this time, he also benefited by the presence of Allama Muhakkik Mirza Mahdi Isfahani, may Allah sanctify his spirit. To advance further and to complete his studies, he traveled to the city of Qum in 1368 AH 1957, so that he would be able to make use of the various ulama at the Grand Hawza in the city. The Hawza Ilmiya of Qum was at that time under the supervision and guidance of the sole marja of the Shia world, Ayatollah al-Uzma Sayyid al-Hajj Hussain Buruadradi, may Allah sanctify his spirit. Ayatollah Sistani, who was present in the lessons of fiqh and usul, which at that time were being taught by Ayatollah Buruadradi, was quickly counted as one of his brightest students in the fields of fiqh, usul, and rijal. He also took part in the classes of Ayatollah al-Uzma Hujjat Kumrai and other teachers and scholars to quench his thirst for knowledge. In the year 1371 AH 1960, Ayatollah Sistani once again moved this to Najaf al-Ashraf. At that time, the Hawza of Najaf was blooming and full of splendor and glory, and Ayatollah Sistani, with all that he could, took part in the classes being offered and learnt the Islamic sciences from the most well-known ulama of that time. For more than 10 years he took part in the lessons of Ayatollah al-Uzma as Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Musawi al-Qawi, may Allah be pleased with him. At this time, he also took part in the lessons taught by Ayatollah al-Uzma Muhsin al-Hakam, may Allah sanctify his spirit. He also completed one complete course in usul ai fiqh under the auspices of Ayatollah al-Uzma Sheikh Hussein Hili, may Allah be pleased with him. After years of studies and participation in the lessons of usul, fiqh, and mantiq, and pending time deeply reflecting and pondering in the sacred texts of the Hawza, and after years of studies in the Hawza of Mashhad, Qum, and Najaf, in the year 1381-1970, he started to teach his own lessons of Darzi Khabarij, revolving around the book Al-Makasib by Sheikh Ansari, may Allah be pleased with him. After teaching Darzi Kharij based on the framework found in Al-Makasib for years, he advanced his lessons onto a higher level by teaching from the book Al-Awat al-Wathqa. Until today, Ayatollah Sistani has taught Kitab at-Taharat, a good portion of the rules found in Kitab as-Salat, and parts of Kitab al-Khums. The great knowledge of the teacher. Very quickly, the light of knowledge began to emit from the personality of Ayatollah Sistani, which was evident from his lessons in the Hajj. Ayatollah Sistani is one of the few people who at a very young age was given written certification that he had reached the level of Ijtihad by his teacher Ayatollah Qawi. In the same year that he received his certification from Ayatollah Qawi, the great alim of Hadith and Rijal, Allama al-Hajj Aqab Buzurg Tehran, confirmed the same honor on Ayatollah Sistani in the fields of Rijal and Hadith. It should be noted that at the time of receiving these two confirmations, Ayatollah Sistani was not even 31 years old. 3. Works of this scholar. Ayatollah Sistani, for the past 34 years, has been continuing the important task of teaching Darzi Kharij in fiqh and usul and rijal, and the fruits of his struggle for knowledge and the accomplishments of this faqih have been preserved in writings, some of which are listed below. 1. A short explanation of Awat al-Wathqa. 2. Al-Buhath al-Usuliyya. 3. Kitab al-Kata. 4. Kitab al-Bay wa al-Qira. 5. A short treatise on the topic of Salat al-Musafir Arabic. 6. A short treatise on the topic of the Qibla Arabic. 7. A short treatise on the topic of Ijtihad and Taqlid Arabic. 8. A short treatise on the topic of interest rib. 9. A short treatise on the topic of the compilation of Hadith in Islam Arabic al-Ulma and various other books. Ayatollah al-Uzma as Sayyid Ali al-Hussaini as Sistani and Ayatollah al-Uzma as Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Qawi R.A. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, the practical laws of Islam that are related to the actions that one must perform and those that must be avoided, and are the responsibility of everyone to learn, are called the Ahkam rules. Every action that a person performs has a specific ruling in Islam. The various actions that we perform, which are related to our responsibility to Allah, are divided into 5 categories: wajib, haram, mustahab, makruh, and mubah. Wajib, those actions which must be performed, and turning away them incur Allah punishment, for example salat and saum. Haram, those actions which must be avoided, performing them incur punishment from Allah, like lying and oppression. Mustahab, these are actions which are recommended to be performed and earn the person a reward, but turning away from such actions does not incur punishment from Allah, for example saying salam and giving sadaqah. Makruh, those actions which are better if not performed, and if avoided, earn a reward, but if performed, do not accompany a punishment, for example, blowing over hot food and eating hot food. Mubah, those actions whose performance or turning away from are equal, meaning neither gets a reward nor punishment, and tilde, for example walking or sitting. Ijtihad and Taqlid, a person is able to perform the rites of Islam either by way of Ijtihad or Taqlid. Ijtihad refers to the intense struggle and the way of extracting the rules of Islam from their sources, of which the most important are the Quran and the Ahadith of the Masum, peace be upon all of them, after learning the necessary wise sciences of Islam that enable the person to be able to extract the ahkam from their sources. A person who has this intellectual power is called a mujtahid. Taqlid means following and to go behind someone, and in the context of Islam, refers to following a mujtahid, meaning a person performs his responsibilities according to the fatwa of a mujtahid. Issue 1. A mujtahid to whom others do taqlid is referred to as a marja taqlid, and the pen who does taqlid is called a muqallid. Issue 2. Someone who is not a mujtahid and is not able to derive the rules and commandments of Allah from their sources must do taqlid to a mujtahid, meaning he must perform his responsibilities according to the act according to fatwa of a mujtahid, or act according to ijtihad. Issue 3. Acting according to ijtihad means that one performs one's actions in such a way that he has certainty that he has fulfilled his responsibility to Allah. For example, if a group of mujtahidin considers an action haram and another group do nor consider that action haram, one would nor perform that action. And if some mujtahidin consider an action wajib, others consider it mustahab, he would perform that action. Issue 4. The responsibility of most people in the rules of Islam is to perform taqlid, because the number of people who are able to perform the rules of Islam by reaching ijtihad or by practicing ijtihad are few in number. Issue 5. The mujtahid to whom one does taqlid to must be just al-mal, liri, ali, shia ith-nashri. In the rulings where it is clear that there are differences, must be the most knowledgeable alam. Issue 6. If the mujtahid to whom a person is doing taqlid to passes away and he was more knowledgeable than the other mujtahidin who are living, the muqallid must stay on the taqlid of the mujtahid who passed away. But if among the mujtahidin who are alive, one is more knowledgeable than the one who passed away, one must do taqlid to that mujtahid who is alive and who is the most knowledgeable. Issue 7. Alam is that person who is the most strong from among the mujtahidin in extracting the rules of Islam from their sources. Issue 8. There are 3 ways to distinguish the mujtahid and the most knowledgeable. A person himself has certainty. For example, he himself is of the people of knowledge and he is able to discern who is a mujtahid and alam. The statement of 2 knowledgeable and just people who are able to discern who is a mujtahid and alam, on the condition that 2 knowledgeable and just people do not go against their statement, and if someone goes against their statement, the statement of a person whose investigation went deeper should be accepted, and even if one person whom one has trust in states that one is a mujtahid or alam, a group of the people of knowledge who are able to determine who is a mujtahid and alam, if they verify who is a mujtahid or alam, and if one finds certainty in their words. Issue 9. the ways to obtain the fatwa of the mujtahid are hearing it from the mujtahid himself, hearing it from two just people, hearing it from even one person in whom one has certainty in his words, seeing it in the risala of the mujtahid as long as one has certainty in its authenticity. Issue 10. If a person does not know if the fatwa of the mujtahid has changed or not, and even if he has a doubt that his fatwa has changed, he is able to act upon that which is written in the risala, and it is not necessary for him to do any investigation. Issue 11. It is wajib, mandatory, that a person learns those rules which he will always be in need of. The difference between ihiyat mustahab and ihiyat wajib. Issue 12. Ihiyat mustahab always accompanies a fatwa, meaning, in that ruling, along with the mujtahid expressing his opinion, he also gives a precautionary measure, and in that ruling, the muqallid can act either according to the fatwa or to the ihiyat, and is not allowed to refer to another mujtahid. An example of this is, washing a naji's desk in cur water once makes the dish tahir, although the ihiyat is that it is washed 3 times. Ihiyat wajib does not accompany a fatwa, and the muqallid must act according to that ihiyat. But he is also able to refer this rule to another mujtahid before ruju to whom it is permissible to do taqlid to. For example, the ihtiyat is that one does not perform sajda on the leaf of the grape tree. Taharat, cleanliness. Keeping a clean body and surroundings are very important in Islam. Everyone must refrain from sighting and drinking those things which are najis, and the clothing that one wears for salat, which is the best of actions in worshipping Allah, must be clean, and it is best that they are the most pure of clothing. Because of this, it is necessary to know what things are najis, and if something is najis, the method of making them tahir. Issue 13. Everything that exists is tahir except for 11 things, and those things that come into contact with them also become najis. Issue 14. The things which are najis are the following: nuri, suah, semen, purse, moy, dye, alcohol. Be recording it. Ihtiyat wajib, tether, the sweat of a najis eating animal. Issue 15. The urine and stool of humans and all animals whose meat is haram and whose blood gushes are najis. Issue 16. Animals are in 2 categories. Some have blood that gushes out, meaning if their neck is cut, the blood comes out with force, and other animals have blood that does not gush out, meaning that if their neck is cut, the blood does not come out with force. Issue 17. The urine and stool of animals whose meat is halal, like the cow and sheep, and animals whose blood does not gush out, like the snake and fish, are tahir. Issue 18. The urine and stool of animals whose meat is makruh to eat, like the horse and donkey, is tahir. Issue 19. The urine and droppings of birds whose meat is haram, like the eagle, are tahir. Issue 20. The droppings of small animals like the mosquito and fly that do not have meat are tahir. Issue 21. According to ihtiyat wajib, one must avoid the urine of animals whose meat is haram and whose blood does not gush forth. The rules of the corpse. Issue 22. Any animal that dies on its own, or that has been slaughtered in a way not prescribed by Islam, is called a corpse. 1. Issue 23. The corpse of an animal whose blood does not gush out, like fish, is tahir. Issue 24. As for the corpse of an animal whose blood gushes out, the parts that contain no life, like the hair and horns, are tahir, and the parts that contain life, like the flesh and skin, are najis. Issue 25. All parts of the body of the dog and pig, whether living or dead, are najis. Issue 26. The complete body of a person who has died, no matter how recently he died, and his body has not yet gone cold except the parts which no life, like the nails, hair, teeth, etc., is najis. Issue 27. Once the dead body has been given a ghusl, the complete body is tahir. Issue 28. It is not necessary to perform a ghusl and shroud the body in a kafan for someone who fights in the way of Allah to protect Islam and is killed on the war front. The rules of blood. Issue 29. The blood of people and every animal whose blood gushes out, like the chicken and goat, is najis. Issue 30. The blood of animals whose blood does not gush out, like the fish and mosquito, is tahir. Issue 31. It is ihiyat must have to avoid eggs that have even a small drop of blood in them. Issue 32. It is not necessary to avoid the spit that is mixed with the blood that comes out from around the teeth gums once it is mixed with the saliva of the mouth. How does something become najis? Issue 33. If something tahir comes into contact with something najis, and one of these 2 things is wetter than the other, and the wetness of one reaches the other, the tahir thing becomes najis. Issue 34. If a person does not know if something tahir has become najis or not, it is tahir, and research and investigation is not necessary, even if one is able to ascertain if the tahir thing has become najis. Issue 35. Eating and drinking najis things is haram, and it is also haram to feed such things to other people. What? For a better understanding on the method of slaughtering according to Islamic law, see issue Mutaharat. Issue 36. Mutaharat are those things which make najis things tahir. Some of the mutaharat, or purifiers, are the following. There are many others which have not been included in this book. Water, ground, the ilong. Removal of the najasat by the conditions which will be explained. The rules of water. Water has many different divisions, and knowing them will help us better understand the rules related to them. Issue 37. Water is either mixed or pure. Mixed water, that water that has been taken from something. For example, apple juice, or watermelon water, or water that has been mixed with something in such a way that it can no longer be called water, like juice. Pure water, that water which is not mixed. Issue 38. Mixed water. With mixed water, it is possible to make something that is dirty, clean, but it can never make something that is najis, tahir. And because of this, it is not counted as a mutaharat. If mixed water comes into contact with a najasat, it will become najis however small an amount the najasat is, and even if the smell, color or taste of the water has not changed. Wudu and ghusl done with this water is void. The divisions of pure water. Issue 39. Water either springs forth from the ground, falls from the sky, or neither gushes nor falls. Water that comes from the sky is called rainwater. Water that springs forth from the ground, if it flows like the water of a well or river, is called running water, and if it does not flow, is called still water. Water that does not gush out from the ground and does not come from the sky, if it is in the amount that will be mentioned in the next rule, is called kur large quantity of water, and if it less than this specified amount, it is called kalil small quantity of water. Issue 40. An amount of water that if put into a container whose length, width, and breadth are 3.5 hand spans each becomes filled, it will be a kur. And if the collection of this water is 36 hand spans, it will also be sufficient. Kalil water. Issue 41. Kalil water less than a kur as soon as it comes into contact with a najasat will become najis, unless it is applied with force onto a najis thing, and in this event only that amount that comes into contact with the najasat will become najis. For example, if a container contains water and this water is poured onto an object from above, only that amount of water that comes into contact with the najasat will be najis, and the water above, meaning in the container, will be tahir. Issue 42. If kur or running water is connected to an amount of kalil water that is najis and becomes mixed, it will become tahir. For example, if a small container full of water is najis and water from a tap that is connected to a kur is made to flow into the container, and this water mixes with the water in the container, it becomes tahir. But if the smell, color or taste have changed due to the najasat, that amount of water that have taken on the smell, color or taste of the najasat must be removed. Kur, flowing and well water. Issue 43. All the divisions of pure water are tahir as long as the smell, color or taste has not changed due to the najasat, with the exception of kalil water. If, because of coming into contact with a najasat, the smell, color or taste of the water takes on that of the najasat, that water will become najis. Flowing water, well water, and kur water and even rain water all share the same ruling. Issue 44. The water in the pipes of the showers in those buildings that are connected to a supply of kur water fall into the category of kur water. Issue 45. Some of the specialties of rainwater. If rain falls on something najis once that does not contain an najasat 1, it will make it tahir, unless the body or clothing has become najis by urine, in which case, according to ihiyat wajib, it must be washed twice by rainwater. If it falls on a najis rug or najis clothing, it is not necessary to squeeze the water out. It will simply be considered tahir. If it falls on najis ground, the ground will be made tahir. Any time rainwater collects in a place, even if it is less than a kur, it will have the ruling of kur water, and therefore if a najis item is washed in such water while it is raining, and as long as the smell, color or taste of the water does not change, the object will become tahir. How to wash something najis in water. Issue 46. To make something tahir, which is najis, the najasat must first be removed, then it must be washed in water in the way which will be explained in the following rules. Issue 47. A najis utensil once the najasat is removed must be washed 3 times with kalil water, and according to ihiyat wajib, it must also be washed 3 times with running water or kur water. Issue 48. A najis utensil can also be washed in the following manner. Kur water, dipping it in and taking it out of kur water 3 times. Kalil water, fill the utensil with water and empty it out and repeat this 3 times, or pour an amount of water in the dish sash utensil 3 times, and after each pouring, Shake the dish in such a way that the water reaches to all the najis parts and empty it out after every pouring and shaking. Issue 49. Rugs, clothing and items like these that soak up water absorb water and that can be squeezed or wrung out can be made tahir by using kalil water by following the method that after each washing, the item must be squeezed so that the water that has soaked in is removed. This can also be done in any other method that allows the water that has been soaked in to come out. But if cur water or flowing water is used, it is not necessary to squeeze out the water. The ground. Issue 50. If while walking, the bottom of the feet or the bottom of the shoe becomes najis by walking or dotting it on the ground, it once again becomes tahir with the conditions that the najasat is removed and the ground also must be tahir, dry, according to Ihtiyat Wajib. If an ayn najasat like blood and urine or a mute najis thing like mud which has become najis is found on the bottom of the foot or sole of the shoe, then by means of walking or by rubbing it on the ground it's removed. If the ayn najasat is removed before walking or before rubbing it on the ground, according to Ihtiyat Wajib, it will not become tahir. The ground must be of dirt, sand or gravel, rocks, a brick floor and things like this. According to Ihtiyat Wajib, the bottom of the shoe or foot must have been made najis by means of contact with the ground. Issue 51. If by walking or rubbing on the ground, the najasat on the bottom of the shoe or foot is removed, it will be tahir, but it is better that a minimum of 15 steps are walked. The sun. Issue 52. The sun with the mentioned conditions will make the ground, buildings, and walls tahir. Issue 53. With the following conditions, the sun is a purifier. The najis thing is wet in such an amount that if it comes into contact with something else, it will make that thing wet too. By the rays of the sun, the najis thing is dried, and if any wetness remains, it will not be tahir. Things like the clouds or a curtain should not prevent the sun from shining onto the najis item, unless it is thin such that it does not prevent the sun from shining onto the najis item. The sun itself dries the item. For example, it is not dried by the help of the wind. While the sun is shining, there is no ayn najasat on the item, so then if a najasat remains it must be removed before having the sun shine on it. The part outside and inside of the wall or the floor must all be dried in one time, so if the outside dries one day and the inside part the next day, only the outside will be tahir. Issue 54. If the ground or things like this become najis, but there is no wetness remaining, it is permissible to pour some water or something else on it to make it wet. Then when the sun shines and it dries, it will become tahir. Issue 55. The non-Muslim is najis, but if he recites the Shahadatain, he will become a Muslim. For example, he says, I testify that there is no God except Allah, and I testify that Muhammad is his messenger. And by saying this, his complete body is made tahir. Issue 56. It is not necessary that the Shahadatain be recited in Arabic. Rather, the translation of it in any language is sufficient. Removal of the ayn najasat. Issue 57. In two instances, the removal of the ayn najasat makes something tahir and it's not necessary to wash it with water. The body of an animal, for example, a beak of a chicken that is eating a najasat, once the najasat is removed from the beak is tahir. The inside of the body, for example, if the inside of the mouth, nose and car come into contact with a najasat from an external source, they become najis. However, with the removal of the najasat, those parts become tahir, but an internal najasat, like blood that comes out from the gums of the teeth, does not make the internal of the body najis, and the same goes for something external that comes into contact with something najis inside the body. That external thing will not be najis. So then, if the artificial teeth in the mouth come into contact with blood from the gums, it is not necessary to wash the mouth with water. But if the teeth come into contact with najis food, then the mouth must be washed with water before eating. An ayn najasat is something that in itself if najis, like urine or blood, and a mute najis is something that in itself is not najis, but has been made najis. Wudu. Before starting the salat, one must perform wudu and prepare himself for this important act of worship. In some instances, one must also perform ghusl, meaning the complete body is washed, and any time one cannot perform wudu or ghusl, one must perform other action called tayammum. Each one of these will be explained with their specific rules in the following section. How do we perform wudu? Issue 58. To perform wudu, one must first start by washing the face, then wash the right arm, followed by the left arm. After this, the moisture that is in the right hand from the washing must be wiped on the head, meaning the fingers of the right hand are wiped on the top of the head, then the right foot and left foot are wiped with this moisture. An explanation of the actions in wudu. Issue 59. In wudu, the person must first start by washing his face from the top of the forehead, meaning the point where the hair grows, until the bottom of the face, meaning the chin, and to ensure certainty that one has washed that which is wajib for him, he must wash a little bit extra of the surroundings of the face. Issue 60. According to Ayat wajib, the face must be washed from the top to the bottom. Issue 61. After washing the face, the right arm must be washed, followed by the left arm, from the elbow up to the fingertips from top to bottom. Issue 62. To be sure that one has washed the complete arm, one must also wash a little bit above the elbow. Issue 63. If someone washes his hands up to the wrist before he washes his face, when he starts to perform the wudu, he must wash from the elbow to the tips of the fingers, and if he washes up to the wrist, his wudu is void. Wiping. Issue 64. The place for wiping is 1/4 of the frontal part of the head above the forehead. Issue 65. The wiping of the head must be done in such a way that if someone sees you performing it, he would say you are performing the wiping. Issue 66. It is must to have that the wiping be the width of 3 closed fingers and the length of 1 finger. Issue 67. It is not necessary that the wiping be done on the scalp. Rather, it is correct even if it is done on the hair, unless the hair on the head is so long that when it is combed, it falls on the face or other parts of the head. In this event, the skin on the head or the roots of the bait must be wiped. Issue 68. After wiping the head with the moisture that is present on one's hand from performing the wudu, one must wipe the feet from any one of the toes to the joint. Issue 69. While performing the wiping on the head or feet, the hand itself must be drawn, and if the hand is kept stationary and the hand or feet are moved, the wudu is void. But if the head or feet move slightly while the hand is being drawn for wiping, it is not a problem. Issue 70. The moisture on the hand must be a sufficient amount so as to leave an effect on the head or feet. Issue 71. The place of wiping head or feet must be dry. So if the place of wiping is wet, it must be dried before being wiped. But if the wetness is very little such that it does not affect the moisture on the hand, it is no problem. Issue 72. There must be no barrier between the hand and the head or the feet, like a scarf and hat or socks and shoes, no matter how thin they be, even if the water still manages to reach the skin. Issue 73. The place of wiping must be tahir. So if there is a najis present and one is not able to remove it with water, one must perform tayammum. Conditions for wudu. Issue 74. If the following conditions are present, the wudu will be correct, and if they are not present, the wudu will be void. What? The water for wudu must be tahir, not najis, and according to Ayat wajib, there must not be any uncleanliness like the urine of a halal animal or pus in it. 2. The water for wudu must be mubah, permissible for use, meaning it is not stolen property. 3. The water for wudu must be mutlaq, pure, not mixed water. 4. The container holding the water must be mubah. 5. The container holding the water must not be made of gold or silver, according to Ayat wajib. 6. The parts of the body that are to be wiped or washed at the time of wudu must be tahir. 7. There must be no obstruction on the body that prevents the water from reaching the body. 8. The wudu must be done with the niyat of nearness to Allah and riyat for showing off. 9. Succession tartib in actions must be observed as was explained earlier. 10. No unusual gap of time muwalat in the actions. There should not be a big time gap between the actions of wudu. 11. One must not acquire the help of other people. 12. There should be no constraint in using the water. 13. There must be enough time to perform wudu and to perform the salat. Summary of the conditions of wudu. Issue 75. The wudu that is done with mixed water is void whether you know the water is najis or mixed, and even if you do not know, or if it was forgotten. Issue 76. The water for wudu must be mubah. Therefore, in the following instances, the wudu is void. Performing wudu with water whose owner is not happy with his water being used. His displeasure is known. That water which is not known if its owner is happy or not by its use. Water that has been donated waqf to specific people, which is used by other than those specified. For example, the pools of most madrasa schools which have been given as a donation to those of that specific madrasa school, and the rooms of wudu in most masjid that have been specifically donated for those people who read their salat in that masjid. Issue 77. If the exact type of waqf is not known, and that water is commonly used for wudu, and one is not prevented from using it. It can be used for wudu. Issue 78. Performing wudu from a large body of water, river, lake, etc. even if the person does not know if its owner is content or not, is not a problem. Issue 79. The parts to be washed or wiped in wudu, for example the face, arms, and feet, must be tahir. Issue 80. If there is something on the face or arms that prevents water from reaching there, it must be removed to perform the wudu. Issue 81. The ink of a pen, the spot of paint, and oil, grease, and cream, in the event that its effects are not remaining on the skin and it is not an obstacle or barrier for performing wudu, is not a problem. But if it is a covering on the skin that prevents water from reaching the skin, it must be removed. Issue 82. If something is stuck on one of the areas of wudu, but it is not known if it will prevent water from reaching that area or not, it must be removed or the water must be made to flow underneath it. Issue 83. The actions of wudu must be done in the following sequence: tartib, the face, then the right arm must be washed, then the left arm must be washed, and then the head and feet must be wiped. Issue 84. Muwalat, meaning one after the other, with no gap between the actions. Issue 85. If between the actions of wudu a period of time passes so that when one decides to wash or wipe a particular place, one notices that the moisture of all the places that had previously been washed or wiped has become dry, the wudu is void, and the same rule applies if between the actions of wudu such as a gap is left that in the view of the people, it would be said wudu has not been performed. Issue 86. Someone who is able to perform the actions of wudu is not allowed to seek assistance from others. Therefore, if the person who needs to perform wudu has someone helping him in performing the washing of the face and arms and or the wipings, or helps with making the water reach to all the necessary parts that must be purified in wudu, his wudu is void. Issue 87. Someone who is not able to perform wudu on his own must perform wudu with the help of someone else, and if it is not possible for the person who needs to perform wudu to in any way help in his own wudu, then according to Ihya wajib, both must make the niyat of performing wudu. Issue 88. Someone who knows he will get sick or feels scared that he will become ill if he performs wudu must perform tayammum, and if he performs wudu, it will be void. If he does not know that the water is harmful for him, and he performs wudu, and later on finds out that the water was harmful for him, his wudu is void. Issue 89. Wudu must be performed with the intention of nearness to Allah, meaning for the wish or desire of Allah. One is performing wudu, and it is not necessary that the niyat be spoken or even mentioned in the heart. Rather, even if one knows that he is performing wudu to obey the commandment of Allah, this too is sufficient, such that if he was asked, "What are you doing?" his response would be, "I am performing wudu for the wish or desire of Allah." Issue 90. If the time of salat is so short that if a person wishes to perform wudu, the complete salat or a part of it will be performed after its time, he must perform tayammum. But if the performing of wudu and tayammum takes the same amount of time, he must perform wudu. Wudu jabara, medicine or things like this that have been applied to an injury, or things that are wrapped around an injury and things of this type, are referred to as jabara. Issue 91. If someone who has an injury or a wound on one of the parts of wudu, but he is still able to perform wudu in the regular manner, then he must perform it as such. For example, if the injury is open, and pouring water on it is not harmful, or if the injury is covered like with a cast or bandage, but it is possible to open that covering and the pouring of water on the wound is not harmful, then wudu must be performed in the usual manner. Issue 92. In the event that the injury is on the face or arms and the injury is open and it is harmful to pour water on it, one must wash around the injury, and if the rubbing of a moist hand over top of the injury wig nor be harmful, then it is better that the moist hand be rubbed over those parts, and then a dean cloth should be placed over the injury and the wet hand should also be rubbed over the cloth. Issue 93. While performing wudu jabara, the places that must be washed and rubbed must be washed or rubbed according to standard procedure, and in places where it is not possible, a wet hand must be rubbed over the jabra. Issue 94. If the injury is on the front of the head or on the top of the feet, the places of wiping and the top of these places is open, the wound is open, and one cannot perform the rubbing. One must perform tayammum. Issue 95. If there are multiple injuries on the face or arms, the areas between the injuries must be washed, and if there are multiple bandages on the top of the feet, the wiping must be performed between these bandages, and wherever there is no bandage, wiping must be performed in the way as was previously mentioned for wudu jabara. Issue 96. someone who has a bandage on the palm of the hand or on the fingers, and at the time of wudu the wet hand is rubbed over it, then he can perform the wiping of the head or feet with that same moisture. Issue 97. If the bandage covers the complete face or one of the arms, the rules of Jabra apply and performing wudu Jabra is sufficient. Issue 98. If the bandage covers the complete foot but a small amount around the toes and a little arm above the foot is open, one must wipe those parts which are open and also wipe on top of the Jabra. Issue 99. If the Jabra is larger than usual around the injury and it is not possible to take it off, one must perform tayammum, unless the Jabra is on the forehead or on the back or palm of the hand, in which case it is necessary to perform wudu Jabra and also perform tayammum. Issue 100. If something is stuck on the place of wudu or ghusl, and it is not possible to remove it or it is so painful to take it off that one will not be able to withstand the pain, one must perform tayammum, unless there is something on the areas of tayammum, in which case one must perform wudu Jabra and also tayammum. Issue 101. Ghusl Jabra is performed like wudu Jabra, and according to Ihtiyat Wajib, must be performed by way of tartibi sequential, and not urtamasi all at one time. Things for which wudu must be performed. Issue 102. A person must perform wudu for salat except salat al-Mayyit and tawaf of the Kaaba, and for touching any part of the body to the Quran or the names of Allah. Issue 103. If someone performs salat or a wajib tawaf of the house of Allah without wudu, it is void. Issue 104. It is not permissible for someone to touch the following things without wudu with my part of the body: the script of the Holy Quran, but touching its translation is not a problem; the name of Allah in any language, for example Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Ha, or Arabic Tet, Arabic Dal, Arabic Alif, or God according to Ihtiyat Wajib. Issue 105. It is mustahab to perform wudu for the following acts: Salat al-Mayyit, entering a masjid or haram of the Imam, reciting the Quran, carrying the Quran, touching any part of the body to the cover or the margins of the Quran, performing ziyarat of the deceased. How does wudu become void? Issue 106. If a person commits any of the following acts, his wudu is void: urinating, defecating or passing gas, going to sleep in such a way that you cannot hear or see anything, anything that makes one lose his senses, like going insane, becoming drunk, or becoming unconscious. Istihada for women 1. Entering into the state of janabat. What? This rule applies only to women, and for a complete explanation, please refer to Rule #135. Yasha. Sometimes for salat and other acts that require wudu, ghusl 2 becomes wajib. The method of performing ghusl. Issue 107. To perform ghusl, the complete body, including the head and the neck, must be washed. Sometimes a ghusl becomes wajib, for example in the case of janabat, and sometimes a ghusl is mustahab, like the ghusl on Friday Jummah. However, there is no difference in the way the ghusl is performed, only the niyat will vary. 108. Ghusl can be performed in 2 ways, either tartibi or urtamasi. Head and neck, and then the rinse that is bibub and emetter the ref that of first father bill of his body. In ghusl urtamasi, one is allowed to place the complete body under water at one time or in stages. Therefore, for ghusl urtamasi, the amount of water must be so much so that the person is able to submerge his complete body under the water. Conditions necessary for a correct ghusl. Issue 109. All the conditions that were necessary for a correct wudu 1 are necessary to have a correct ghusl, except for muwalat without a gap, and also it is not necessary that the body be washed from top to bottom. Issue 110. If many ghusls become wajib on a baron, he is able to perform all of them in one ghusl, simply by specifying a niyat for each one. Issue 111. One who has performed ghusl janabat must not perform wudu for salat, and with other ghusls, one is also able to offer salat without performing a separate wudu even if mustahab ghusls are performed. However, if one performs ghusl for medium istihadat too, one cannot read the salat directly due to the fact that a wudu must also be performed. Issue 112. In ghusl urtamasi or tartibi, it is not necessary that the complete body be tahir. Therefore, if by going into water or pouring water on the body with the intention of doing a ghusl, the body becomes tahir, the ghusl is correct. Issue 113. Ghusl Jabra is performed just as wudu Jabra 3. Wajib ghusls. Issue 114. There are 7 wajib ghusls. 1. Janabat. 2. Mayyit. 3. Mas Mayyit. 4. Head. Ha. Istihada. 6. Nefas. 7. The ghusl made wajib by a nadr promise. Ghusl Janaba. Issue 115. If semen 4 comes out of a person, either in steep or due to sexual intercourse, however small an amount, he become junub and must perform ghusl janabat for salat and other acts which require taharat. Issue 116. If someone feels the movement of semen within one's own body, but it does not come out, one will not be considered as junub. Issue 117. If someone knows that semen has come out of the body, or one knows that the liquid which has come out is semen, one will be considered as junub and therefore must perform ghusl. Issue 118. If a person has a liquid come out of his body but does not know if it is urine, semen, or that it is neither of these, then in the event that the liquid that was discharged came out with passion, and after it came out, his body became relaxed, then that wetness will be considered as semen. But for the person who is sick, even the one sign, meaning the wetness coming out in a state of passion, is enough. Issue 119. It is must-have that a person urinates after semen has come out, and if one does not urinate and after the ghusl a liquid come out and one does not know if it is semen or something else, it will be considered as being semen. Actions haram for a junub. Issue 120. From the time a person becomes junub until he performs the ghusl, or if he is not able to perform ghusl and instead performs tayammum, the following acts are haram for him: touching the Quran with my part of the body, and the names of Allah, and it is better that he does not even touch the names of the prophets and the MAS. Going into Masjid al-Haram and Masjid an-Nabis, even if one just goes in from one door and exits through another door. Staying in a masjid, and according to Ihya wajib, staying in the haram of the Ima'ah. But if one only intends to enter from one door and exit through another door, or just goes to take something, it is not a problem. Going into a masjid to return something there or to take something out of there, according to Ihya wajib, reciting one of the surahs from the Quran that contain a wajib sajda, even if it is only one letter of these surahs. The ayats of sajda are the following: 1. Surah Sajda 32:15. 2. Surah Fussilat 41.37. 3. Surah Najm 53:62. 4. Surah Alaq 96:19. Issue 121. If a person has a specific room for salat like those found in most organizations and clubs, it does not have the ruling of a masjid. Issue 122. There is no harm in staying in the harams of the descendants of the MA in a state of janabat, but staying in the masajid that are usually built adjacent to the harams is haram. Ghusl Mayyit. Issue 123. Anytime a Muslim passes away, his body must be given a ghusl, and kafan and salat must be prayed over the body, and then he must be buried. 5. Ghusl Mas Mayyit. Issue 124. If any part of the body of someone touches my part of the body of a dead person whose body has gone cold and has not been given a ghusl, he must perform ghusl for touching the dead body. This is known as Ghusl Mas Mayyit. The ghusls related to girls and women. Issue 125. 3 ghusls. From all of the wajib ghusls, meaning the ghusl of haid, istihada, and nifas, are only wajib on girls and women. The reason for these ghusls is in relation to the blood that is discharged from the womb of the woman. Each of these 3 ghusls has their own specific rulings. Ghusl of haid menstruation. Issue 126. When the discharge of blood of the menstrual period stops, the woman must perform ghusl in order to make salat and other actions for which taharat is necessary. Issue 127. The blood of menstruation does not occur before the age of 9 years, and if a girl sees blood before this, it does not have the ruling of haid. Issue 128. The duration of haid cannot be less than 3 days, so then if the blood that is discharged stops before 3 days, it will not be considered as haid. Issue 129. The duration of haid cannot continue for more than 10 days. Therefore, if a woman sees blood for more than 10 days, the period after 10 days will not have the same ruling as haid. Issue 130. The blood of haid is usually thick, warm, and dark in color, and is discharged with pressure and a bit of burning. Issue 131. During the period of haid, certain actions are haram for a woman: salat and tawaf of the Kaaba. All the actions that are haram for a junub, such as staying in a masjid. 6. Issue 132. During the period of menstruation, performing salat and fasting are not wajibas for the salat that were missed. They do not have to be made up. However, the fasts which were not kept must be made up. Issue 133. The ghusl of haid is no different than the ghusl of janabat, except for the niyat. Ghusl of istihada. Issue 134. One of the other types of blood that is discharged by girls and women for a certain amount of time from the womb is called istihada. Issue 135. The blood of istihada is usually yellow in color and cold, and comes out without force or burning, and is not thick, but it is possible that sometimes it may possess a dark color, warm, is thick, and comes out with force. Issue 136. The blood of istihada is of two types, either little or a lot, of which these two are broken up into three categories. If it is very little in quantity, ghusl is not needed, but it does make the wudu void, and if it is not a little quantity, ghusl becomes wajib. For a better understanding of the rules of each of these categories, women can refer to Rule 399 in the Tawdih al-Masail, ghusl of nifas. Issue 137. Ghusl of nifas is related to childbirth and does not occur in any other instances. This ghusl must be performed after the blood that comes out following delivery is seen. 7. The conditions for wudu were mentioned in Rule 70. The ghusl istihada is a ghusl related to women only. 3. The rules are related to wudu jabara were mentioned in Rule 54. 4. Semen. It is a liquid that comes out of the reproductive gland due to sexual intercourse or due to having a wet dream. It comes out from the area that urine coma out of. 5. For a better understanding of the rules related to a dead Muslim, one can refer to Ride 546 in Tawdih al-Masail. There are also certain other actions that are haram, that if one would like to be better acquainted with, one can refer to the Tawdih al-Masail under Rule 456. Also, those actions which are haram for a junub were mentioned in Rule 120. The explanation of this rule is given in the Tawdih al-Masail and Ride 514. Tayammum. Issue 138. In the following instances, instead of wudu and ghusl, tayammum must be performed. There is no water available or there is no way to get any water. The use of water has some danger. For example, if water is used, one will become ill or an illness will become aggravated, or it will be very difficult to be cured from the illness. If one gets water to perform wudu or ghusl, one's self, spouse, or children, or a friend or someone who is dependent on him will be of thirst or will become sick or will remain so thirsty that they will not be able to handle it. This also includes animals that are under one's care. His body or clothes be najis, and there is only enough water left to make them tahir and no more, and he also has no more clothes. The amount of time is extremely short, such that if one performs wudu or ghusl, the complete salat or a part of it will be read after its time. The rules of tayammum. Issue 139. There are 5 things wajib in tayammum. 1. Niyat. 2. Hitting or placing the palms of the hands on something that tayammum is permitted on. 3. Wiping or stroking both hands over the complete forehead from where the hair starts to grow and over the eyebrows and above the nose. 4. Wiping or stroking the left palm over the back of the right hand. 5. Wiping or stroking the right palm over the back of the left hand. The fingers are also included in the palm. Issue 140. According to Ayat wajib, the palms of both hands must be struck on the ground or on that which tayammum is performed on at the same time. Issue 141. According to Ayat wajib, the palms of the hands must be wiped or stroked in both directions of the forehead to cover the complete forehead. Issue 142. In order to be certain that the complete backside of the hand has been wiped, one must start a little bit higher than the wrist in the wiping, but wiping between the fingers is not necessary. Issue 143. In order to perform tayammum, one must remove any rings from the fingers and anything else that may be on the forehead or hands that will be an obstacle in the tayammum. Issue 144. All the actions of tayammum must be done with the intention of performing tayammum, and for obeying the commandments of Allah SWT. And it is not necessary that it be specified that tayammum is being performed in place of ghusl or wudu, unless 2 tayammums are being performed at one time. Things that tayammum is permitted on. Issue 145. Tayammum is permitted on the following: earth, dirt, sand, a lump of clay, or a stone, if they are tahir. The rules of tayammum. Issue 146. There is no difference between the person performing tayammum in place of wudu and the person performing tayammum in place of ghusl. Issue 147. If a person performs tayammum in place of wudu and if one of the things that cause wudu to become void occurs after he has done tayammum, his tayammum will become void. Issue 148. If a person performs tayammum instead of ghusl, and if one of the things that causes the ghusl to become void occurs after his tayammum will be void. For example, if in place of ghusl janabat, one performs tayammum, and if he once again becomes junub, his tayammum will become void. Issue 149. Tayammum is only correct in the event that a person is not able to perform wudu or ghusl. So if one performs tayammum with no reason, it will not be correct, and if one has a reason, and later that barrier reason is removed. For example, one did not have water, then later he found some water, his tayammum will become void. Issue 150. If one performs tayammum in place of ghusl janabat, it is not necessary to perform wudu for Salat, but if in place of another ghusl he performs tayammum, according to Ayat Mustahab, he should perform wudu for the Salat, and if he is not able to perform wudu, he should perform another tayammum in place of wudu. That Salat is the most important act of worship in Islam, and if Allah SWT accepts the Salat, all other acts of worship will be accepted, but if the Salat is not accepted, all other actions will also not be accepted. In the same way that if a person was to bathe 5 times in one day, no dirt or filth would remain on his body. Salat too, if performed 5 times per day, will clean all the sins from a person and make him tahir. It is better that a person reads his Salat in the first time when the time for Salat comes in, and one who counts his Salat as being something light and trivial is just like the one who does not read his Salat at all. The Prophet of Islam has said that he who does not give importance to his Salat and considers it something light, trivial, is worthy of the punishment of the next life. It is better that those things that reduce the reward of the Salat be avoided. For example, reading the Salat in a state when one is sleepy or looking up at the sky while one is praying. Rather, one should perform those actions which increase the reward of the Salat. For example, praying with the cleanest clothes on, putting on perfume, brushing the teeth, and combing the hair. The divisions of Salat. In order to be better acquainted with the rules related to Salat, we must first start by pointing out that Salat is either wajib or mustahab. The wajib Salat are divided into 2 categories. Some of them are a daily responsibility, meaning every day, and at certain specific times they must be performed. And the other group are those prayers that become wajib at specific times due to certain incidents, and these do not have a set program or schedule, and are not performed every day. Times for the daily Salat. Issue 151. The Salat that are performed every day are 5, and in total are 17 rakat. Salat al-Fajr 2 rakat. Salat al-Zuhr 4 rakat. Salat al-Asr 4 rakat. Salat al-Maghrib 3 rakat. Salat al-Isha 4 rakat. Issue 152. The time for Salat al-Fajr is from the adhan of Fajr until the rising of the sun, and in this period of time, the Salat must be read, and the best time to read it is close to the time of adhan as possible when it has finished. The time for Salat Zuhr and Asr is from midday according to Islamic law until the setting of the sun. That amount of time that one can perform a 4 rakat Salat at the beginning of midday is the prime time reserved only for Salat al-Zuhr, and that same amount of time that remains before the setting of the sun is the reserved time only for Salat al-Asr. The time for Salat al-Maghrib and Isha is from Maghrib. For explanation of this, please refer to Rule 155 until midnight according to Islamic law, and that amount of time that one can perform a 3 rakat Salat at the beginning of the time is the prime time reserved only for Salat al-Maghrib, and the amount of time that remains before midnight that one can pray 4 rakat Salat is the specific time only for Salat al-Isha, is called the second dawn, and this is the beginning of the time for Salat al-Fajr. Issue 154. If a stick or something like this is placed upright in the ground, its shadow will fall westward when the sun rises in the morning, and as the sun continues to rise, the shadow will reduce in size. Once the shadow reaches its smallest size, and it run to the cast, it will then start to increase once again, and midday according to Islamic law has started, and thus begins the time for Salami Zuhr. 1. Maghrib. Issue 155. Maghrib is that time when the redness in the eastern sky that appears after the setting of the sun is seen, passes overhead. Midnight. Issue 156. To calculate midnight, which is the final time to perform Salat al-Isha, the time between the setting of the sun until the adhan of Fajr should be divided into the rules of the times of Salat. Issue 157. The Salat other than the daily Salat do not have a specific time to be recited. Rather, they are related to a specific time and event which makes them wajib. For example, Salat al-Ayat is related to events like earthquakes, solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, or other natural occurrences, or Salami Mayit, which becomes wajib when a Muslim passes away. Issue 158. If the complete Salat is read before its time has set in, or intentionally the Salat is started before the time has set in for that Salat will be void. If the Salat is read in a specific time, it is referred to as Salat al-Ada, and if it is read after the time has elapsed, it referred to as Salami Kata. Issue 159. A person must read his Salat in its specified time, and if he intentionally does not pray in this time, he has committed a sin. Issue 160. It is must have that a person read his Salat right when the time sets in, and the closer that it is read to when it becomes time, the better it is. However, if it is delayed for a good reason, such as delaying the Salat so it can be read in Jamaat, then this is better. Issue 161. If the time for Salat is short but the person wants to pray the mustahabat of Salat, such that if he does, a part of the Salat will be performed after the time of Salat, he must leave out the mustahabat. For example, if he wants to pray the Qunut, the time will pass from the Salat, he must leave out the Qunut. Issue 162. A person must read Salami Asr after Salat al-Zuhr and Salat al-Isha after Salat al-Maghrib, and if one intentionally prays Salat al-Asr before Salat al-Zuhr or Salat al-Isha before Salat al-Maghrib, the Salat will be void. Issue 163. The Kaaba, which is situated in the city of Mecca, inside the Masjid al-Haram, is the Qibla, and a person who intends to pray must face to this direction. Issue 164. If someone who is out of the city of Mecca and is far away stands in such a way that it can be said he is praying facing the Qibla, this is sufficient. Clothing that. Issue 165. During Salat, boys and men must cover their private parts, and it is better that the area between the navel to the knees is covered. Issue 166. Girls and women must cover their entire body, but covering the hands and the feet up to the ankle, and the face that amount that must be washed in wudu is not necessary, although to cover these areas is not a problem. Issue 167. The clothing of the person performing Salat must have the following conditions. It must be tahir, not najis. It must be mubah, not kuhasbi. It must not be made from an animal's corpse. For example, the skin of an animal that has not been slaughtered according to Islam, even so much so as a belt or hat. According to Ihtiyat Wajib, it must not be from predator animals. Rather, according to Ihtiyat Wajib, it must not be from any animal that is haram to cat. For example, it must not be from the skin of a leopard or fox. If the person who is praying is a man, his clothing must not be made from gold or pure silk. Issue 168. Along with the clothing, the body of the person who intends to pray must also be tahir. Issue 169. If a person knows that his body or clothing is najis, but at the time of Salat, he forgets they are najis and he reads his Salat in this state, then if his forgetting was due to carelessness or not paying attention to them being najis, then, according to Ihtiyat Wajib, he must repeat his Salat. Issue 170. In the following instances, if someone reads his Salat while his body or clothing is najis, the Salat will be correct. One does not know that his body or clothing is najis, and after the Salat, he realizes it. Due to an injury on the body or clothing has become najis, and it is difficult to wash the clothing or change them. The body or clothing of the person intending to pray has become najis by blood, but the amount that is najis is less than the size of a dirham, almost the size as the upper joint of the thumb. 3. Someone is helpless and must pray with a najis body or clothing. For example, one does not have water to clean the clothing or body. According to the explanation in Rule 854 in the Tadihul Masail, Issue 171, wearing an abaya, white clothing, as well as the cleanest clothing, and applying perfume on oneself, and wearing a makik ring on the hand during Salat are all mustahab. Issue 172. Wearing black clothing, tight or short clothing, and clothing that has pictures or images on it, and keeping the buttons open during the Salat are all makruh. The place of Salat. Issue 173. The place where a person prays his Salat must have the following conditions. Mubah maut gasbai. It should not be in such a way that due to intense movement it prevents the person from reciting Salat, from standing or performing ruku or sujud. In fact, according to Ihtiyat Wajib, there should be no movement in the place of Salat so that it does not upset the stillness of the body. The place must not be too narrow and the ceiling must not be so low so that one is not able to perform the qiyam, ruku, or sujud in the proper way. The place where one puts his forehead sajd must be tahir. If the place of prayer is najis, it must not be wet that it transfers the najisat to the body or the clothing. The place where one puts his forehead in sajd must not be more than the amount of 4 closed fingers lower or higher than the feet. But if the ground is sloped a little bit, it is not a problem for. According to Ihtiyat Wajib, women must stand behind men in Salat. The rules of the place of Salat. Issue 174. If, due to a shortage of time, or for other reasons, one is helpless to read his Salat in a moving vehicle like a train or plane, he must to the best of his ability observe stability and observe the direction of the Qibla, and if while in a vehicle, one turns away from the Qibla, one must turn such that he once again faces the Qibla. Issue 175. It is not permissible to pray in front on the grave of the Prophet and the Imam if it involves disrespect, but if it does not entail disrespect, then there is no problem. 5. Issue 176. It is must-have that one recites his obligatory salat in a masjid, and in Islam a lot of emphasis has been placed on this recommendation. The rules of the masjid. Issue 177. In the following rule, we will explain the importance of being present in the masjid and reading salat in this place. Frequenting the masjid is must-have. It is must-have to go to that masjid that people do not use much. It is makruh for the person who is a neighbor to the masjid to pray in any other place other than the masjid without an excuse. It is must-have that if a person does not go to the masjid for salat, others should not eat with him, nor take advice from him, nor alive beside him, nor take a woman from his family in marriage, and nor should one give a woman to him in marriage. Issue 178. The following actions related to the masjid are haram. Decorating the masjid with gold according to Ayat wajib. Selling a masjid even if it is demolished. Making a masjid najis, and if it has been made najis, then it must be made tahir immediately. Issue 179. The following actions related to the masjid are must-have. One should come to the masjid earlier than others and leave it after everyone else has left. Illuminating the masjid. Cleaning the masjid. Entering the masjid with the right foot first. Exiting the masjid with the left foot out first. Reciting a 2-rakat must-have salat as a gesture of entering the masjid and as respect to the masjid. Applying perfume to oneself and wearing one's best clothes. Issue 180. The following actions related to the masjid are makruh. To spit or throw phlegm or mucus from the nose inside the masjid. Sleeping in the masjid except in a state of helplessness. Yelling in the masjid or speaking very loud except for at hand. Speaking about worldly affairs. For someone to go into a masjid who has eaten onions or garlic, etc., and whose bad breath may upset others. The preparation for salat. Now, since we have learnt the rules related to wudu, ghusl, tayammum, the times for salat, the covering in salat and the place of salat, we are ready to start praying. Adhan and Iqamah. Issue 181 is must-have that before reading the daily salat, one recites the Adhan and Iqamah and then starts the salat. And then aroik health, aroik four times. Arabic del Arabic Arabicas test the Arabic 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 shit Arabic 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 hit Arabic 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 shit Arabic del Arabic fish word Arabic Kells Arabic 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 see Arabic 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 Kells Arabic Arabic shit Arabic Arabic 2 times Arabic hit Arabic 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 Kells so Arabic Kells Arabic law Arabic 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 2 times Arabic hit Arabic 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 the Arabic 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 Kalish so Arabic Kalish Arabic Arabic could Arabic 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 Kalish Arabic hit Arabic 2 times Arabic Arabic Kalish so that Arabic Kalish Arabic 2 times. Arabic Caliph, Arabic Shat, Arabic Tham, Tet, Philip, Arabic Calf, Arabic 2 times. Arafat, Arab Shelf, Fuzz, Arabic Shurfat, Arabic Shelf, Fuzz, Arabic Shurfat, Arab Shelf, Arabic 2 times. They go. Arabic Caliph, Arabic Flat, Arabic Chat, Arabic Clavis, Tat, Arabic Calf, Arabic Arabic 2 times. Arich Tifel Ferric, Eric, Eric, Tifel Ferric, Eric, the air shelf, Arabic shelf, says Eric, sure that Eric, shelf, says Eric, sure the air shelf, Eric, 2 times. Arabic, the Habs, Tetz's list, Arabic, Habs, Tat, to list, Arabic, 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 Arabic light, Arabic Hellish, Arabic 2 times. Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic Hellish, Arabic Talis, Arabic Arabic cut, Arabic Arabic lot, Arabic Hellish, Arabic Tetet. But Arabic 2 times. Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic flat, Arabic cut, Arabic Hellish, Arabic Hellish, Arabic flat, Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic cut, Arabic flat, Arabic Hellish, Arabic cut, Arabic 2 times. Arabic Hellish, Arabic Hellish, Arabic 2 times. Arabic flat, Arabic to, Arabic flat, Arabic shelf, Arabic to, Arabic shelf, Arabic flat, Arabic flat, Arabic shows Arabic tested but 2 times. Arabic kelf, Arabic flat, Arabic shaft, Arabic class, stat, Arabic calf, Arabic could Arabic 2 times. Arabic shelf, says Arabic shelf, Arabic shelf, sounds Arabic shelf, Arabic 1 times. Issue 182 says that it's Arabic instant, Arabic cheat, Arabic instant, Arabic cat, Arabic is not a part of the Taharat ekman, but it's bad diverse after Arabic instant, Arabic cheat, Arabic skin, Arabic cat, Arabic dollar, Arabic instant, Arabic cat, Arabic chip, Arabic chip, Arabic cat, Arabic shot, Arabic dollar, Arabic leather 6, Arabic seat, Arabic seat, Arabic cat, Arabic shot, Arabic seeking nearest. Issue 183. The adhan and ikama must be recited after the time for salah has set in, and if it is recited before the time, it will be void. Issue 184. The ikama must be met after the adhan, and it is not correct if it is read before the adhan. Issue 185. There must not be a large gap between the sentences in the adhan and ikama when they are being read, and if the gap is greater than usual, then the adhan and ikama must be repeated. Issue 186. If the adhan and ikama have been recited for salah jamat, one must not read his own adhan and ikama if he is joining that jamat. Issue 187. If someone goes to the masjid for salah jamat, and when he gets there he notices that the salah is finished, as long as the lines of the congregation have not broken and the people have not split up, he is able to read his salat without reciting adhan and ikama. Issue 188. The mustahab salat do not have an adhan or ikama. Issue 189. It is mustahab that when a child is born, adhan is recited in its right ear and ikama in its left ear. Issue 190. It is mustahab that the person who intends to read the adhan prepares himself for the adhan, and that he be a just person adil, and he is one who can distinguish the time of adhan, and that he recites them in a loud voice. The actions in salat. Issue 191. The salat starts by saying Arabic alif, Arabic lam, Arabic ka, Arabic shav, Arabic hamzatat alif, Arabic ka, Arabic kaf, Arabic skin, Arabic that, Arabic cat, Arabicu, and ends by reciting the salam. Issue 192. The actions performed in salat are either wajib or mustahab. Issue 193. The wajibat of salat are 11, of which some things are rukin and others are gerakin. Wajibat of salat. 1. Niyat intention. 2. Takratal recitation of Arabic alif, Arabic satat hilis, Arabic kaf, Arabic skud, Arabic cross Arabiku. 3. Qiyam standing. 4. Ruku bowing. 5. Sujud prostrating. 6. Karat recitation. 7. Dihikr glorification. 8. Tajahud. 9. Salam. 10. Part of sequence. 11. Muwalat order. Rukan of salat. 1. Niyat intention. 2. Takr telegram recitation of Arabic alif, Arabic satat, Arabic kaf, Arabic sukun, Arabic cross Arabiku. 3. Qiyam standing, both standing during the recitation and standing after ruku. 4. The difference between rukin and gerakin. Issue 194. The arkan of salat are those parts which are the necessities of the salat, and if any of the rukin is left out, even if it may be due to forgetfulness, the salat will become void. Similarly, if any of the rukin are added intentionally, the salat is void. And if due to forgetfulness, one performs an extra ruku or more than 2 sajdas in 1 rakat, according to ayat wajib, the salat will become void. However, in relation to the other wajibat, Although performing them is mandatory, if they are left out or extra are added due to forgetfulness, the salat will not be void. But if they are intentionally not performed or extra are added, then the salat will become void. The rules pertaining to the wajibat of salat. Midat. Issue 195. The person praying must know which salat he is reading, and he must be performing it with the intention of complying with the orders of Allah. Issue 196. It is not necessary to speak the niyat with the tongue, but if this is done, it is not a problem. Issue 197. The salat must not be performed with the intention of showing off or boasting, and must only be performed for Allah SWT, and if the complete salat, or even a part of the salat is performed to show off to people, it is void. Taharat al-Iram. Issue 198, as was previously explained, saying, Arabic alif, Arabic lam, Arabic lam, Arabica, Arabic shat, Arabica, Arabicu, Arabicam sitat dalif, Arabica, Arabic kaf, Arabic skun, Arabita, Arabica, Arabicat, Arabicu starts the salat, and this phrase is referred to as Taharat al-Iram. It is called such because with the saying of this takbir, many actions which before the salat were permissible for the person praying, now become haram, such as eating, drinking, laughing, and crying according to the conditions that will be explained shortly. Issue 199. It is must-have that the person praying raise his hands until they are parallel with his cars at the time of saying Taharat al-Iram, and for the other takbirs of the salat too. Qiyam. Issue 200. Qiyam means standing. The person praying must be standing still when he says the Taharat al-Iram and when he is reciting the surahs. Issue 201. If one forgets to perform ruku, and after the qira'at goes directly to sajda, but before actually being in sajda he remembers that he had not performed ruku, he must stand up completely, then go to ruku, and then perform the sajda and continue with the salat. Issue 202. According to Ayat Wajib, the person reciting salat at the time of standing must stand with both feet on the ground. But it is not necessary that the weight be equally distributed on both feet. Thus, if more weight is applied to one foot, it is not a problem. Issue 203. Someone who is not able to stand and pray, even so much as with the help of a cane or leaning against a wall, most pray sitting facing the Qibla, and if he is not able to pray sitting, then he must pray lying down. Issue 204. After ruku, it is wajib that one stand up completely, then go into sajda, and if intentionally one leaves out the standing, the salat will become void. Qira'at. Issue 205. In the first and second rakat of the daily salat, one must first recite Surah al-Fatiha, and then one other complete surah from the Quran, for example Surah al-Tawhid. Surah al-Fatiha. Surah al-Tawhid. And in the third and fourth rakat, one must only recite Surah al-Fatiha once or Tasbihat al-Arba once, but it is better to recite Tasbihat al-Arba'ah 3 times. Tasbihat al-Arba. The rules of recitation Qira'at. Issue 206. According to Ayat Wajib, in the third and fourth rakat of the salat, The Surah al-Fatiha or the Tasbihat must be recited quietly. Issue 207. In Salat al-Zuhr and Asr, the Qur'at of the first and second rakat, according to Ayat Wajib, must be recited quietly. Issue 208. According to Ayat Wajib, in Salat al-Fajr, Maghrib and Isha, boys and men must recite Surah al-Fatiha and the other surah in the first and second rakat out loud. And M for girls and women, if a non-mahram cannot hear their voice, they too can recite out loud, but if a non-mahram can hear their voice, they must according to Ayat Wajib recite quietly. Issue 209. If in the places where it is wajib to recite out loud, one intentionally recites the salat quietly, or in place of where it is wajib to recite quietly, one intentionally recites the salat out loud, according to Ayat Wajib the salat will become void. However, if this is done out of forgetfulness or due to not knowing the rule, the salat will be correct. Issue 210. If during the recitation of al-Fatiha or the other surah, one realizes he has made a mistake, for example, instead of reciting out loud, he was reciting quietly, it is not necessary that the amount that was read wrong be repeated. Issue 211. A person must learn how to pray the salat so that he does not make any mistakes, and if someone cannot at all learn how to recite the entire of Surah al-Fatiha, he must at least learn the amount that he is able to and recite that. But if that amount is so insignificant, then according to Ayat Wajib he must learn an amount of the rest of the Quran that he is able to, and recite this in addition to the amount of al-Fatiha that he has learnt. If he is able to do this, then he must recite tasbih in addition to what he knows of the Surah al-Fatiha. But for the person who cannot learn a surah, it is not necessary that he recites something else in its place, and according to Ayat Mustahab, he should pray his salat in Jamaat. Issue 212. In every rakat after the Qur'at, the person praying must bend an amount with the intention of ruku such that the tips of the fingers of the hand can be placed on the knees, and this action is called ruku, and it is wajib that while in this position of ruku, dhikr should be recited. Issue 213. Whatever dhikr is at the ruvius fish. But it's nebulous and Eric 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 Eric's Eric 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 of third that Eric 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 retired or Eric 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 of third Eric 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 of third Eric 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 was but is but of the dhikr should use it. Issue 214. While reciting the dhikr in ruku, the body must be stationary. Issue 215. If before one has fully bowed down into the position of ruku and the body has become stationary, the dhikr is recited, the salat will become void. Issue 216. If before finishing the wajib dhikr, one intentionally lifts one's head up from naked, the salat will become void. Issue 217. In every rakat of the wajib and mustahab salat, one must perform 2 sajda after the ruku. Issue 218. Sajda refers to placing the forehead on the ground with the intention of performing sajda, and when in sajda, it is wajib that the palms of both hands, the knees, and the tips of both the big toes are all placed on the ground, and it is also wajib that while in sajda, dhikr is recited. Issue 219. Whatever dhikr is recited in sujood is sufficient, but according to Ayat it must not be less than Arabic see Arabic 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 kun Arabica Arabica Arabicalus Arabic Arabica Arabicalif Arabic Arabica Arabic shaf Arabica Arabic 3 times or Aramici Arabic Arabic Arabica Arabicals Arabic Arabica Arabic Arabic shaf Arabic Arabica Arabic Calif Arabic kun Arabic with Arabica Arabic Arabic kun Arabica Arabicals voter Arabic Arabica Arabim Arabic dollar Arabica once, and it is better that the dhikr should be recited. Issue 220. While reciting the dhikr in sujood, the body must be stationary. Issue 221. If before one's forehead has reached the ground and the body has gone into a stationary position, intentionally, the dhikr of sajda is recited, the salat will become void. If this is done due to forgetfulness, the body must be made stationary, and then the dhikr must once again be recited. Issue 222. After completing the recitation of the dhikr in the first sajda, the person must sit up, and once the body is completely stationary, one must again go into sajda. Issue 223. If before finishing the dhikr intentionally, the person who is praying comes out of sajda, his salat will become void. Issue 224. If while reciting the dhikr in sajda intentionally, one of the 7 parts of the body is lifted off the ground, the salat will become void. However, if one is not reciting any dhikr and one of the sewn parts, with the exception of the forehead, is lifted up and placed back on the ground, it is no problem. Issue 225. If along with the by toe, other toes are placed on the ground, it is no problem. Issue 226. When in sajda, the person praying must place his forehead on the ground or on something that comes from the ground that is neither edible nor wearable, like wood or the leaf of a tree. Issue 227. Performing sajda on things like minerals, for example, gold and silver and akik and firoza, is not correct. Issue 228. Performing sajda on things that come from the earth, which are food for animals like grass and straw or hay, is not a problem. Issue 229. Performing sajda on paper, if it is from one of those things permissible to perform sajda on, or if it is made from cotton or wool, is not a problem. Issue 230. The best thing to perform sajda on is the dirt from the grave of Hadrat Sayyid ash-Shahada, and after this, in the following order: dust, tathawan, greenery plants. Issue 231. If during the first sajda the turba sticks to the forehead, it must be removed before the second sajda is performed. The responsibility of one who cannot perform sajda in the normal way. Issue 232. Someone who is not able to make his forehead reach the ground must bend as much as possible and then lift the turba up, place it on the forehead, and perform sajda in this way. But the palms of the hands, the knees, and the big toes of the feet must be placed on the ground as usually would be done in sajda. Issue 233. If one is not able to bend for sajda, one must sit and with his head make the indication of sajda. But according to Ayat Mustahab, the turba should be lifted up so that it can be placed on the forehead. The wajib sajda of the Quran. Issue 234. In 4 surahs of the Quran there are ayats of sajda that if a person reads one of these ayats, or if he hears someone else recite one of these ayats, once the ayat is finished, one must immediately go into sajda. Issue 235. The surahs that contain an ayat of wajib sajda are: what? Surah 32 as sajda / ayat 15. Surah 41 al-Fusilat / ayat 38. 3. Surah 53 and Najm / ayat 62. Surah 96 al-Alaq / ayat 19. Issue 236. If one forgets to perform the sajda, whenever one remembers he must perform the sajda. Issue 237. If the ayat of sajda is heard over a tape recorder or things like this CD, computer, etc., the sajda is not wajib. Issue 238. If one hears the ayat of sajda over a speaker, it is wajib to perform the sajda. Issue 239. If one hears the ayat of sajda over the radio, in the event that the radio program is live, meaning the reciter is in the studio reciting the ayat, once the ayat is completed and the radio broadcasts it, the sajda is wajib. But if the radio plays the ayat of sajda from a tape of the Quran, the sajda is not wajib. Issue 240. It is not wajib to recite a dhikr while in the sajda, but it is mustahab. Tashahhud. Issue 241. In the second rakat, and at the end of the wajib salat, after the second sajda one must sit, and in a state of complete stillness recite the tashahhud. Issue 242. In the final rakat of the salat, after the tashahhud, the salam must be recited, and after this, the salat will come to an end. Tartib sequential. Issue 243. The salat must be read in the following sequence: Takrat al-Ihram, Qurat, Ruku, Sujud, and in the second rakat after Sujud, Tashahhud must be recited, and in the final rakat, after the Tashahhud, the salam must be recited. Mu'allat succession. Issue 244. Muwalat means that each action must be performed one after the other without a gap between the actions. Issue 245. If someone places such a gap between the actions of Salat that it would not be said one is reciting Salat, the Salat will become void. Issue 246. Extending the Ruku and Sujud and reading the bigger surahs of the Quran do not break the Muwalat of the Salat. Note. Issue 247. In the second rakat of Salat after the recitation of Surah al-Fatiha and the other surah, before going to Ruku, it is must-have to recite Qunut, meaning the hands are lifted up in front of the face, and Dua and Dhikr is recited. Issue 248. Whatever Dhikr recited in Qunut is sufficient, even as much as Arabic Sin, Arabic Ba, Arabic Het, Arabic Alif, Arabic Nun, Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Ha, and one is also able to recite the following dua. Takib of Salat. Takib refers to the recitation of Dhikr and dua, and the recitation of the Quran after the Salat. Issue 249. It is better that while in the state of Takib, one is facing the Qibla. Issue 250. It is not necessary that the Takib be recited in Arabic, but is better that those dua that are mentioned in the appropriate books are recited. Issue 251. One of the things in the Takib of Salat that has been highly recommended to recite is the Tasbih of Hedreb Fatima Azara, which is as follows. 34 times Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Het, Arabic Hamzatet, Aliz, Arabic Kaf, Arabic Ba, Arabic Kot. Then 33 times Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Het, Arabic Mim, Arabic Dal, Arabic Lam, Arabic Ha, followed by 33 times Arabic Sin, Arabic Ba, Arabic Het, Arabic Alif, Arabic Nun, Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Ha. Mubtalat of Salat. Issue 252. From the time one says the Taharat al-Ihram and starts his Salat until the end of the Salat, many actions become haram for him, and if any of these are performed during the Salat will become void. For example, speaking, living, crying, turning away from the Qibla, eating and drinking, breaking the form of the Salat, adding or taking away anything from the arkan of Salat. These were explained in Rule 194.6. The rules of the Mubtalat of Salat. Speaking. Issue 253. If the person who is praying intentionally says a word, even as much as a word that is only one letter, and if this word has a meaning in itself, the Salat is void. Issue 254. If out of forgetfulness, the person praying says something because he did not realize that he is in the state of Salat, his prayer will not become void. Issue 255. Coughing and sneezing does not make the Salat become void. Issue 256. During the Salat, one must not greet another person, but if someone else says salam to the one praying, it is wajib to reply the salam, and the reply must be given just as the salam was originally given. For example, if it is said, Arabic Sin, Arabic Lam, Arabic Alif, Arabic Mim, Arabic Dain, Arabic Lam, Arabic Yet, Arabic Kaf, Arabic Mim, the reply too must be Arabic Sin, Arabic Lam, Arabic Alif, Arabic Mim, Arabic Dain, Arabic Lam, Arabic Yet, Arabic Kaf, Arabic Mim. Laughing and crying for the affairs of the world. Issue 257. If the person praying Salat intentionally laughs out loud, the Salat will become void. Issue 258. Smiling during Salat does not make the Salat become void. Turning away from the Qibla. Issue 259. If one intentionally turns away a little bit from the Qibla such that it would not be said one is facing the Qibla, the Salat will become void. Issue 260. If due to forgetfulness or for another reason, one turns away from the Qibla, but one has not turned so much so that one's right side or left side of the body are facing the Qibla, the Salat is correct. But if one turns so much so that the right side or left side of the body faces the Qibla, and before the time for the Salat has expired, one remembers that he turned away from the Qibla, the Salat must be repeated. But if one realizes after the time of Salat has passed, it is not necessary to repeat the Salat. Issue 261. If only the face is turned away from the Qibla, but the body is still facing the Qibla, then in the event that the neck has turned in the amount that one is able to see behind him, the rule of turning the body applies as mentioned in the previous issue. Eating and drinking. Issue 262. If the person praying, cats, or drinks something in the amount that it would not be said that he is reciting Salat, the Salat will become void. Issue 263. If the person praying intentionally cats or drinks something, Even if it does not break the form of the salat, according to Ayat Wajib, the salat will be void, whether or not the muwalat succession is disturbed, meaning it is done in such a way that the people would not say that the salat was prayed continuously or that the muwalat was not broken. Changing the form of the salat. Issue 264. If during the salat an action is performed that changes the form of the salat, for example clapping, or jumping up in the air, or things like this, even if done out of forgetfulness, the salat will become void. Issue 265. If during the salat one remains silent in such an amount that it would not be said one is praying, the salat will become void. Issue 266. Turning away from the wajib salat. Breaking the salat without a good reason, according to Ayat Wajib, is haram, except in a state of helplessness, such as in the following cases: to protect one's life, to protect one's property, to prevent injury to one's property or body. Issue 267. Breaking the salat to pay back a loan for those people in the following conditions is not a problem. While in the salat, one is not able to pay back the loan. The person who gave you the loan is requesting the loan back. The time for salat is not short, meaning that once the loan is paid back, there is still enough time available to recite the salat. Issue 268. Breaking the salat to protect property that is not important is makruh. Issue 269. The following things we makruh during salat: closing the eyes, playing with the fingers and hands, going silent while reciting al-Fatiha or the other surah or dhikr to listen to other conversations, any action which removes the attention or concentration, turning the face to the right or left a small amount if moved a large amount, the salat will become void. Translation of the adhan and ikama. Translation of the adhan. Araikalos arabic 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 chat arabic 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 hamsatet fizlish arabic arabic kaf arabic could arabic 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 Allah is the greatest. Arabic setefils urdik arichi arich could eric eric arabic dal urdik arika setefils arabic 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 could arabic arabic alf arabic says arabic shirt the arabic 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 self says arabic shirt the arabic alf arabic self the Arabic should Arabic over witness the Aranoic set Arabic Stetli Arabic good Arabic Arabic Stetli Arabic Deus expert Arabic bear witness that man is a messenger Allah. Arabic is Arabic 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 Great Disa Arabic get Arabica Arabic Arabica Arabic Arabica Arabic Loa Arabica Arabic Halish or Arabic Halish Arabic La Arabic kun Arabic Vera Arabica Arabic La Arabic Halish Arabic Arabic Gurib odd prosperity. Arabicat, Arabica, Arabicat, Arabicat, Arabishat, Arabican, Arabical, Arabicalif, so Arabicat, 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 Arabicalif, Arabical, Arabican, Arabic meme, Arabiclam, hurries to the best actions. Arabicalif, Arabicla, Arabicla, Arabica, Arabichat, Arabica, Arabicu, Arabiclavs, Tetlus, Arabica, Arabica, Arabics, could Arabic, but Arabica, Arabicos, Arabicu, Allah is the greatest. Arabica, Arabicalif, Arabicalif, sounds Arabic, Arabic, Arabic 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 Shelf Faz Arabic 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 Shelf Arabic Shelf Arabic 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 there is nobody exit translation of the ikama Araichos Arabic 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 Karaf Arabic 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 Arabicos Arabic is the greatest. Arabic as a Tetsalus, Arabic, 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 as Tetsalus, Arabic, 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 Chelf, Arabic, Chelf, Sals, Arabic, 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 Chelf, Sals, Arabic, 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 Chelf, Arabic, Chelf, Arabic, 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 over witness that there are no vice at that. Arabic, Tetsalus, Arabic, 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 Tetsalus, Arabic, 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 to six Arabic, 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 over witness that is a messenger. Arabic hits Arabica, 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 Arabic, Arabica, Arabla, Arabica, Arabicalis, short Arabicalis, Arabita, Arabics, Arabica, Arabica, Arabita, Arabicalis, Arabic, but the Arabic, Gurita desat, Arabica, 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 Arabic, Arabica, Arabicla, Arabica, Arabicalis, so Arabicalis, Arabicla, Arabics, could Arabica, Arabica, Arabita, Arabicalis, Arabic, Arabici. Gertvalat prosperity. Arabicat, Arabicat, Arabicat. Arabicat, Arabicata, Arabican, Arabicat, Arabicalif, Sud, Arabicat, 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 Arabicalif, Arabicat, Arabican, Arabic mean, Arabiclam. Hurry to the best actions. Arabic raf, Arabic dal, Arabic raf, Arabic alif, Arabic meme, Arabic tat, Arabic alif, Arabic quam, Arabic sura, Arabic wa, Arabic alif, Arabic tat maladet. Before at Salat is beauty established. Arabic alif, Arabic ba, Arabic wa, Arabic call, Arabic shed, Arabic, Arabic satat to lift, Arabic call, Arabic kaf, Arabic scoot, Arabic but Arabic call, Arabic got, Arabic Allah is the greatest. Arabic shelf, says Arabic shelf, says Arabic shelf, with Arabic there is no Vixata. Translation of the Salat. Taharat al-Iram, Arabic helf, Arabic bot, Arabic plab, Arabic call, Arabic chat, Arabic goof, Arabic satat, Arabic call, Arabic kaf, Arabic scoot, Arabic call, Arabic Allah is the greatest. Surah al-Fatiha. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all praise belongs to Allah, Lord of all the worlds, the most beneficent, the most merciful, master of the day of judgment, you alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help, keep us on the straight path, the path of those who have earned your blessings, not of those who have earned your wrath, nor those who have gone astray. Surah Al-Ikas. In the name of Allah, most beneficent, most merciful, say, O Muhammad, He is Allah, the one Allah, the self-existent He does not beget nor is He begotten and there is nothing like Him. Die Hikr in Rugu. Glory and praise be to my Lord, the Magnificent. Die Hikr in Sujad. Glory and praise be to my Lord, the Highest. Tasbihat al-Arba. Glory be to Allah, and all praise belongs to Allah. There is no God except Allah, and Allah is the greatest. Tashahhud and Salam. I bear witness that there is no God except Allah, the one who has no partners, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and family of Muhammad. Peace be upon you, O Prophet, and may the mercy of Allah and His blessings be on you. Peace be upon us, and on the righteous servants of Allah. Peace be upon you, and may the mercy of Allah and His blessings be on you. Doubts in Salat. Sometimes it is possible that the person performing the Salat will doubt in a part of the Salat. For example, he does not know if he read the Taharat or not, or he does not know if one sajda was performed or two sajdas. And sometimes one has a doubt in the number of rakat recited. For example, one does not know if at that moment one is in the third rakat or fourth rakat. For doubts in the Salat, there are special rules of which the complete explanation is not possible in this book, but a concise and brief explanation of the types of doubts and their respective rules is as follows. Doubt in the parts of the Salat. Issue 270. If the person praying has doubts in the performance of the parts of the Salat, meaning one does not know if a part of the Salat was performed or not, then if the part after it has not yet been started, meaning one has not entered into the next state of the Salat, then one must perform that part, the one that was doubted. But if after entering into the next part of the Salat, a doubt comes into the mind about a previous action, meaning one has already passed the former state, one should not pay attention to this type of doubt and should continue with the Salat, and one's Salat will be correct. Issue 27. If after the performance of one of the parts of Salat, one doubts in the correctness of that part, meaning one does not know if the part that was just performed was properly done or not, the doubt should not be paid attention to, meaning that which has passed is correct, and the Salat should continue on, and the Salat will be correct. Doubts that make the Salat void. Issue 272. If in the wajib, 2 or 3 rakats Salat, for example Salat al-Fajr or Salat al-Maghrib, one has a doubt in the number of rakat recited, the Salat will become void. Issue 273. If one has a doubt between the first rakat and more than the first rakat, for example, between the first and second or the first and third rakat, the Salat will become void. Issue 274. If during the Salat one does not know how many rakat one has read, the Salat will become void. Doubts that are correct. Issue From the 9 instances, 4 of them occur more than the others, and we will explain only these 4 now. To be familiar with this topic in more detail, please refer to the Tawdih al-Masail, rule number 1208. If after entering into the second sajda, one doubts whether 2 rakat have been recited or 3 rakat, one must conclude that 3 rakat have been performed and thus pray 1 more rakat, and then finish the Salat, and after the Salat, according to Ayat Wajib, read 1 rakat of Salat al-Ayat standing. If after entering into the second sajda, one doubts whether 2 rakat have been recited or 4 rakat, one must conclude that 4 rakat have been performed and finish the Salat, and after the Salat, one should stand up and read 2 rakat of Salat al-Ayat. If a doubt occurs between the 3rd and 4th rakat during my part of the Salat, one must conclude that one has performed 4 rakat and finished the Salat, and after the Salat read 1 rakat of Salat al-Ayat standing or 2 rakat sitting. If a doubt occurs between the 4th and 5th rakat while standing, one must immediately sit down, read the Tashahhud and Salam, finish the Salat, and read 1 rakat of Salat al-Ayat standing or 2 rakat sitting. Issue 275. Doubts that must not be paid attention to. In mustahab Salat. In Salat al-Jamaat. After the Salam in Salat. After the time of Salat has passed. Issue 276. If one doubts during a mustahab Salat on the number of rakat recited, and if the higher side makes the Salat void, for example, in the Nafila of Fajr, one doubts having read 1 rakat or 2 rakat, either way one decides to go with this doubt, the Salat will be correct. But if going the higher way makes the Salat void, then one must decide on the lesser of the number. For example, a doubt occurs between 2 and 3 rakats. One should act upon 2 rakat. Issue 278. If after the salam of the salat, one doubts if one's salat was correct or not. For example, one doubts if the ruku was performed or not. Or after the salam of a 4 rakat salat, one doubts if 4 rakat were read or 5 rakat. One should not pay attention to one's doubts, but if leaning either way in the doubt makes the salat void. For example, after the salam of the 4 rakat salat, one doubts if 3 rakat were read or 5 rakat. The salat is void. Issue after the salat was read or not, or when is a ball that it was not read, it does not have to read the salat again. But if the salat was read or not, or when the ball that the salat was not read, that salat might be read rather. Even if the ball that the salat was read, it did let it be read. Issue 280. If one of the doubts that makes the salat void comes up, one must ponder on that doubt a little bit, and in the event that nothing comes to mind and the doubt remains, one is able to break the salat. But it is better than one should think to such an extent so as to not break the form of salat, or one should think to such an extent so that one does not lose hope over establishing certainty or a probable conclusion. Salatul Ikiyat. Issue 281. In the event that Salatul Ikiyat becomes wajib, for example, a doubt occurs between the 3rd and 4th rakat, then right after the salam, without doing anything to break the appearance of the salat, or without committing one of the things that make the salat void, one must stand up, and without adhan or ikama, immediately make a niyat for Salatul Ikiyat, recite the Taharat al-I, and read Salatul Ikiyat. Issue 282. The difference between Salatul Ikiyat and the other salat. The niyat must not be pronounced with the tongue. There is no recitation of the second surah and no qunut even if the Salatul Ikiyat is 2 rakat. According to Ikiyat wajib, the surah al-Fatiha must be recited quietly. Issue 283. If 1 rakat of Salatul Ikiyat becomes wajib, after the sajdas, the tashahhud and salam must be read, and if 2 rakat have become wajib, the tashahhud and salam must not be read after the first rakat. Rather, 1 more rakat must be performed without a takbir but start the second rakat, and at the end of the second rakat the tashahhud and salam should be read. Sajd sawa. Salatul Musafir. Issue 285. When someone travels, that person must reduce the 4 rakat salat to a 2 rakat salat, meaning kasr, with the condition that the journey is no less than 8 farsakh, and 1 farsakh, according to Islamic law, is a little less than 51 2 kilometers. Issue 286. If a traveler whose salat is prayed in full goes from a place, such as his hometown Watan, to another place and then returns, and the total traveling distance of the trip is at least 8 farsakh, his salat will be prayed as kasr. For example, if it is 4 farsakh going and thus 4 farsakh returning, or if going is 3 farsakh and returning is 5 farsakh. Issue 287. For someone who travels from his home place Watan, the moment that the salat must be read in kasr is from that minimum distance that he goes away so that the people of his city can no longer see him, and the sign of this is that he does not see the people of that city, and in the event that he wishes to read the salat before having traveled this amount, it must be read in full. Issue 288. Someone who travels from a place other than his home place warn. For example, he stayed in a place for 10 days and for this period of time, read his salat in full. Now if he travels from this place, in that way he has left this place of residence with the intention of traveling, his salat will be cast. Issue 289. If a person travels to a place, and there are 2 roads to that place, and one road is less than 8 farsakh and the other road is 8 farsakh or more, then if one takes the road that is 8 farsakh or more, the salat must be read as kasr, and if one takes the road that is less than 8 farsakh, the salat must be prayed in full. For example, if one goes from Watan to a village that have 2 roads leading to it, and the first road is 4 farsakh and the other one is 3 farsakh, then if one take the first road and return from that road, the salat during the travel and at that village would be prayed in kasr. But if one goes by the second road and returns by another road, or goes by the second road and returns by that road, Because the complete trip is less than 8 farsakh, the salat on his trip in that village would be full. Issue 290. In the following examples of journeys, the salat will be recited full. If before traveling 8 farsakh, one passes through one's watan and stops there, or one stays for 10 days in one place. From the beginning, one does not have the intention to travel 8 farsakh, and without the intention starts a journey. For example, someone is in search of another person who has gone missing. During the journey, one makes the intention to return from the trip, such that before reaching to the point of 4 farsakh, he changes his mind to continue. One whose job or profession is traveling, for example, the driver of a train, and those drivers who travel out of the city by car, and pilots and sailors whose profession is traveling. Someone whose job or work is in mother place and once every day or every 2 days travels to that place and returns. For example, students who go to mother city to study and return back to their own city. Someone who is traveling for haram purposes, for example, the journey of someone who travels to commit a haram act. Issue 291. In the following places, the salat will be prayed in full. 1. In one's hometown watan, a place where one is staying for 10 days, or knows that one will be forced to stay there for 10 days. 3. A place where one stays for 30 days in a state of doubt, meaning it was not clear that one will stay or leave, and one stayed in this state for 30 days and did not go to any other place. Then in this event, after 30 days, one must recite the salat in full. Where is one's home place watan? Issue 292. Watan is a place where the person by his own will chooses to live in. Sometimes that place is where he was born, and sometimes it is the warren of his father and mother, and sometimes he himself has chosen that place to live in. Issue 293. If someone has the intention to stay in a place for a small period of time that is not his original watan, and then go to mother place, that place will not be counted as his watan. Issue 294. If someone goes to a place that was previously his watan, but now he has turned away from that place, meaning one has decided that he will not return there with the intention to live, he must not recite his salat in full, even if he has not chosen another place for himself as his watan. Issue 295. The traveler who is on his way returning to his watan until he has not entered his want must pray his salat as kasr, and the same goes for the traveler who wishes to stay at a place for 10 days until the rime that he reaches that place, he must pray his salat as kasr. The intention of 10 days. Issue 296. The traveler who had made the intention of staying in a place for 10 days, if he stays for more than 10 days in that place, then as long as he has not traveled from this place, his salat must be prayed in full, and it is not necessary that he make the intention that he will be staying for another 10 days. Issue 297. If a traveler who had made the intention to stay at a place for 10 days abandons this idea, or becomes uncertain that he will stay at that place or if he will go to another place, then, if before reading a 4 rakat salat, he turns back from his intention or he has not made up his mind, then he must pray his salat in the form of kasr 2 rakat. If after reading 1 4 rakat salat, he turns back from his intention or does not make up his mind for the time he is at that place, he must recite his salat as full. Salat al-Qada. Salat al-Qada refers to that salat that is prayed after its time. Issue 298. A person must recite the wajib salat in its specified time, and in the event that without a valid excuse, the salat is made qada, one has committed a sin and must repent to Allah and perform the qada of that salat. Issue 299. In 2 instances, performing the qada of the salat is wajib. The wajib salat had not been read in its proper time. After the time of the salat has passed, one realizes that the salat that had been mad was void. Issue 300. Someone who has qada salat to perform must not take praying these salat lightly, but it is not wajib that they be performed immediately. Issue 301. It is not necessary that the qada salat of the day be performed in order, unless that salat that were at that time mandatory were to be performed in order. For example, if the salat al-zuhr and asr of one day become qada, these must be perfumed in their order, meaning salat al-zuhr first and then salat al-asr. Issue 302. Someone who knows that he has qada salat, but does not know the amount. For example, he does not know if he had 4 or 5 qada to make up, it suffices to go with the lower number. Issue 303. If one knew the amount of qada salat, but forgot the actual number, even if one prays the lesser number, it will be sufficient. Issue 304. One is able to pray the qada salat in Jamaat, whether the salat of the Imam of Jamaat is Ada or qada, and it is not necessary that one is praying the same salat as the Imam. For example, If one has qada for Salat al-Fajr, it is no problem if this is prayed with the Zuhr or Asr of the Imam of Jamaat. Issue 305. If a traveler who must pray his Salat in Qasr makes his Zuhr or Asr or Isha qada, he must make the qada by praying 2 rakat, even if he wishes to make them up when he is not traveling. Issue 306. If when one is traveling, one wishes to make up the Salat that had not been made qada during a journey, that Salat of Zuhr and Asr and Isha must be read as 4 rakat in full. Issue 307. Salat al-Qada can be read at any time, meaning one can even pray the qada of Salat al-Fajr in the afternoon or evening. The qada Salat of the Fajr. Issue 308. As long as a person is alive, no other person can read his Salat for him, even if he himself is unable to offer them. Issue 309. After the death of the father, the Salat and fasting that were not performed by the father, even though he was able to perform the qada of, but because of transgressing the laws of Allah were not performed, according to Ayat Wajib, become wajib for the oldest son to perform. Salatu al-Jamaat. One of the matters that Islam has given a lot of importance is the unity of the Islamic nation, and in order to maintain the protection and continuation of this unity, there is a special program laid out. And one of the specialties of this program is Salat al-Jamaat. In Salat al-Jamaat, one person who holds certain qualifications stands in front of the congregation, and others line up in an organized fashion behind him, and altogether they recite the Salat. The person who stands up in front of the Jamaat to lead the others in Salat is called the Imam of Jamaat, and the people who we behind him and are following him in Salat are called Mamum. Importance of Salat al-Jamaat. What has been mentioned continuously in the hadith about Salat al-Jamaat is that it holds a great reward from Allah SWT. We will now go into some of the rules of this very important act of worship and point out some of the fine points of it. Issue 310. Participating in Salat al-Jamaat is mustahab for all Muslims, especially for those who live near a masjid. Issue 311. It is mustahab that one be patient so as to read his Salat in Jamaat. Issue 312. Even if Salat al-Jamaat is not read right when the time sets in, it is still better than reciting the Salat individually for Rada 7 in its prime time. Issue 313. The Salat in Jamaat that is read quickly and shorter is better than a Firada Salat that is read slowly. Issue 314. It is not proper that a person miss Salat al-Jamaat without a valid reason. Issue 315. It is not allowed to be present at Salat al-Jamaat if one considers it a trivial matter, disregards it as being important. Conditions for Salat al-Jamaat. Issue 316. Once Salat al-Jamaat has been established, the following conditions must be observed. The Mamum must not be in front of the Imam, and if there is more than one Mamum, according to Ayat Wajib, they should stand a little behind the Imam. The standing place of the Imam must not be higher than the standing place of the Mamum. The distance between the Imam and Mamum and the gap between the rows must not be too much, and according to Ayat Wajib, the place of sajda of the Mamum and the place where the Imam is standing should not be more than 1 foot. Between the Imam and Mamum, and also between the rows, there should not be anything separating like a wad or curtain or even a glass that would act as a divider, but if a curtain or things like this are used to separate the men from the women, it is not a problem. Issue 317. The Imam of the Jamaat must be baligh and adil and must know how to recite the Salat in the proper manner. Connecting or joining in Salat al-Jamaat. Issue 318. In each rakat, one is able to join in with the Imam between the Qur'at and Ruku. Therefore, if one does not reach the Imam when he is in Ruku, one must wait until the next rakat to join in, and if one reaches the Imam in Ruku, it will count to being 1 rakat having been read. Issue 319. Various instances where one can join the Salat al-Jamaat. First rakat. During the Qur'at, the Mamum must not read al-Fatiha and the second surah, and the rest of the actions are performed with the Imam. In Ruku, the Ruku and the rest of the actions are performed with the Imam. Second rakat. During the Qur'at, the Mamum must not mat al-Fatiha and the second surah, but follows the Imam in Qunut and Ruku and Sajda. When the Imam of the Jamaat is reciting the Tashahhud, according to Ayat Wajib, one must sit up partially 8, and if this Salat is a 2 rakat Salat, one must read 1 more rakat on his own and then complete the Salat. But if the Salat is a diver for rakat 1, then in the second rakat, which would heed the third rakat of the Imam, the Surah al-Fatiha and the second surah must be read even if the Imam is reading the Tasbihat, and when the Imam of the Jamaat finishes his 3rd rakat and stands up for his 4th rakat, the Mamum after the 2 sajdas must read the Tashahhud and then stand up for his 3rd rakat, and in the final rakat of the Salat, When the Imam of the Jamaat reads the Taharat and Salam, finish the Salat, one must stand and read one more rakat. In Ruku, the Ruku is performed with the Imam of the Jamaat, and the rest of the Salat is performed as was previously mentioned. For rakat, during the Qiraat, in the event that one knows that if one joins the Jamaat, there will be time to read Surah Al-Fatiha and the second Surah, or even time to read Surah Al-Fatiha alone. Then one is able to join the Jamaat, and one must read Al-Fatiha and the second Surah or just the Surah Al-Fatiha. However, if one knows that one does not have ability to read the surahs, then according to Ayat Wajib, one must be patient until the Imam of the Jamaat goes in Ruku, and then join the Salat. In Ruku, in the event that one wants to join during Ruku, the Ruku must be performed with the Imam, and the recitation of Al-Fatiha and the second Surah is dropped, and the rest of the Salat will be performed, as was previously explained. Fourth Rakat. In Ruku, the Ruku and the Sajdas are performed with the Imam. At this point, the fourth Rakat of the Imam will be the first Rakat of the Mamum, and then the rest of the Salat will be performed, as was previously explained. The rules of Salat al-Jamaat. Issue 320. If the Imam of the Jamaat is reading one of the daily Salat, one can follow the Imam in any of the daily Salat. Therefore, if the Imam is reading Salat al-Asr, the Mamum is able to read his Salat al-Zuhr. And if after the Mamum has finished reading Salat al-Zuhr, and then the Salat al-Jamaat becomes established, one is able to read Salat al-Asr with the Salat al-Zuhr of the Imam of the Jamaat. Issue 321. The Mamum is able to read his own Salat al-Qada with the Salat al-Ada of the Imam, even if it is the Qada Salat of Mother Daily Salat. For example, if the Imam of the Jamaat is reading Salat al-Zuhr, the Mamum is able to read the Qada of Salat al-Fajr. Issue 322. Salat al-Jamaat can be established with a minimum of 2 people, one being the Imam and one being the Mamum, except in the cases of Salat al-Jum'ah and Salat al-Eid Fitr and Quban. Issue 323. According to Ayat Wajib, the must-have Salat cannot be read in Jamaat, except for the Salat to pray for rain 9 and the Salat on the day of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Quban. Issue 324. The Ma'mum must not say the Taharat al-Ihram before the Imam. Rather, according to Ayat Wajib, he must not say the Taharat al-Ihram until the Imam has completely finished his. Issue 325. The Ma'mum must recite everything in the Salat himself, except for Al-Fatiha and the second Surah. However, if the first or second Rakat of the Ma'mum coincides with the third or fourth Rakat of the Imam, then the 2 surahs must be recited. Salat al-Jum'ah. One of the weekly gatherings of the Muslims is Salat al-Jum'ah, and on the day of Jum'ah Friday, the Muslims are able to read Salat al-Jum'ah in place of Salat al-Zuhr, which is in fact better than reading Salat al-Zuhr. As for the benefits of this Salat, it suffices to mention that a surah of the Quran has been mentioned in regards to this Salat, and the Mu'minin have been invited to be present in the Salat of Jum'ah. How to read Salat al-Jum'ah. Issue 326. Salat al-Jum'ah is a 2 Rakat Salat, just like Salat al-Fajr, except that it contains 2 khutbah speeches performed by the Imam of Jum'ah before the Salat takes place. Issue 327. According to Ayat Wajib, the Imam of Jum'ah must read Surah Al-Fatiha and the second Surah in a loud voice. Issue 328. In Salat al-Jum'ah, it is must to have that in the first Rakat after Al-Fatiha, Surah Jum'ah be recited, and in the second Rakat after Al-Fatiha, Surah Munafiqun be recited. Issue 329. It is must to have to perform 2 qunut in the Salat al-Jum'ah, one in the first Rakat before the Ruku, and one in the second Rakat after the Ruku. The conditions for Salat al-Jum'ah. Issue 330. The following points must be observed in Salat al-Jum'ah, but all the points that must be followed in Salat al-Jamaat must also be followed in Salat al-Jum'ah. The Salat must be recited in Jamaat, and it is not correct if read individually. 3. The minimum amount of people taking part in Salat al-Jum'ah is 5 people, meaning 1 Imam and 4 Ma'mumin. Though between 2 Salat al-Jum'ah, there must be a minimum distance of 1 farsakh, a unit of measure equal to approximately 5.4 kilometers or 3.4 miles. The responsibility of the person making Salat al-Jum'ah. Issue 331. According to Ayat Wajib, the Imam must listen to the Jum'ah khutbah. Issue 332. While the Imam is giving the Jum'ah khutbah, it is makruh to speak, unless it does not prevent one from hearing the khutbahs, and in the event that it does prevent one from hearing the khutbahs, according to Ayat Wajib, it is not permissible. Salatul Ayat. Issue 333. One of the other wajib salat is Salatul Ayat, which becomes wajib with the occurrence of natural events such as lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, and earthquakes, even if these do not scare people according to Ayat Wajib. Salatul Ayat must be read, also for lightning and thunder, and for yellow and red cyclones. In the event that most of the people become frightened by them, Salatul Ayat must be read too. How to pray Salatul Ayat. Issue 334. Salatul Ayat consists of 2 rakat, and each rakat has 5 ruku. Before each ruku, Surah Al-Fatiha and one other surah from the Quran must be recited, such that in the 2 rakats, 10 Surah Al-Fatiha and 10 of another surah must be read. However, one is also able to break up the second surah into 5 parts, and before each ruku, add one part of the broken surah, and in this way, in the 2 rakats, 2 Surah Al-Fatiha and 2 other surahs of the Quran will be recited. In this next part, we will explain how Salatul Ayat can be prayed by breaking up Surah Al-Qadr. First rak'ah. After the Taharat al-Ihram, Surah Al-Fatiha must be read, and then and a little vote once again, one knows to out and say Ertha Erika Erika Erichkud Ertha Erika Erika which Eriku Erikaus Ertha Erichkud Erika 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 Erichkud Erika 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 Erichkud Erika Erika to say Gorishi Eribi Erika Erika Erichkud Erika Stitlis Erika Ertha Erichkud Erika Erika Erichkud Erika Erika Erichkud Erika Erika 6 Dordi to get listed up to the Erika 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 from the review set up inside Eric 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 pictures Eric to 6 10 0 30 Derek Derek Eric could Eric 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 did Eric Eric goes over the Eric could Eric 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 could Eric got Eric and then go to review. Once one comes back up from Ruku, one will go into Sajda, and after performing the 2 Sajdas, will get back up and perform the second Rakat. The second Rakat is to be performed just as the first Rakat, and then the Tashahhud and Salam is to be recited to bring this Salat to an end. The rules of Salatul Ayat. Issue 335. Only the people who live in the area where one of the natural events occur need to pray Salatul Ayat, and the Salat does not become wajib on those living in other areas. Issue 336. If in the first rakat of Salatul Ayat, one reads Surah Al-Fatiha and the other surah 5 times, and then in the second rakat, reads Surah Al-Fatiha and breaks up the second surah in 5 parts, the Salat will be correct. Issue 337. It is mustahab that after the second ruku, the 4th ruku, the 6th ruku, the 8th ruku, and the 10th rukin, that qunut be performed, and even if one qunut performed after the 10th ruku, this too is sufficient. Issue 338. Each of the ruku in Salatul Ayat is a rukin, and if intentionally or unintentionally something is taken out or added to it, the Salat will become void. Mustahab Salat. Issue 339. There are many mustahab Salat, but it is not possible to include all of them in this writing, and those that have more importance are as follows. Salatul Eid. Issue 340. In 2 Eids, the Eid of Fitr and the Eid of Qurban, reading the special Salat of Eid is mustahab. The time of Salatul Eid. Issue 341. The time for Salatul Eid is from the rising of the sun until Zuhr. Issue 342. It is mustahab that on Eid al-Fitr after the sun has risen up, one should eat some food, pay the Zakatul Fitr 10, and then pray the Salatul Eid. How to pray Salatul Eid. Issue 343. Salatul Eid consists of 2 rakat with 9 qunut and is recited in the following manner. In the first rakat of Salat, after Al-Fatiha and the second surah, it is better that 5 takbir 8 recited, and after each takbir, a qunut is also performed, and after the 5th qunut, another takbir is said, and then one goes into ruku, and then performs the 2 sajdas. In the second rakat, after al-Handi in the second surah, 4 takbir are recited, and after each takbir, a qunut is performed, and after the 4th qunut, another takbir is said, and then one goes into ruku, and then into sajda, and then finishes off with tashahhud and salam. In the qunut of the Salat al-Eid, any dua or dhikr that is recited is sufficient, but it is better that the following dua is read. The Nafila of the daily Salat. The Nafila of the daily Salat, other than the day of Jummah, total 34 rakat. Among them are the 11 rakat Nafila of the night, 2 rakat Nafila of Salatul Fajr, and 2 rakat Nafila of Isha, and the reward of these with the mal is great. 1-1. Salatul Layl night prayers. Issue 344. Salatul Layl consists of 11 rakat which are to be recited in the following sequence. 2 rakat niyat of Nafila Salatul Layl. 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 2 rakat niyat of Nafila Salatul Shafa. 1 rakat niyat of Nafila Salatul Witr. The time for Salatul Layl. Issue 345. The best known time for Salatul Layl is from midnight until the adhan of Fajr, and the closer it is read to the adhan of Fajr, the better it is. Issue 346. For those who are travelers, and for those whom it is hard to read the Nafila of Salatul Layl after the middle of the night, they are able to perform these Nafila in the beginning of the night. Salatul Gufayla. Issue 347. Another salat from among the mustahab ones is Salatul Gufayla, which is performed between Salatul Maghrib and Isha. The method of praying Salatul Gufayla. Issue 348. Salatul Gufayla consists of 2 rakat, and in the first rakat, after Al-Hamdi, the following ayah is to be read. And Dihun Noon, when he went forth enraged and thought that we would have no power over him. Then he called out in the darkness, "There is no God but you, glory be to you, I was one of the unjust." So we answered him, and delivered him out of grief. Thus do we deliver the believers. And in the second rakat, after al-Hamdi, the following ayah is read. With him we the keys of the unseen. None knows them but he. He knows what is on the land and on sea. Not a leaf falls, but he knows it. Not a grain in the earth's darkness. Not anything wet or dry, but it is in a book manifest. And in the Qanat, this dua is read. O Allah, I ask you, by the keys of die unseen that none knows but you, to bless Muhammad and his household, and do for me ask for your wishes. O Allah, you are my benefactor and capable of fulfilling my requests. You know my wishes. So I ask you to bless Muhammad and his household when you fulfill my wishes. What? In most cities, like until the shadow completely disappears, so when it reappears again, it indicates that Zuhr has started. After approximately 1,194 hours after midday according to Islamic law is the final time for Salani Maghrib and Isha. For example, if midday is at 12:15 p.m., midnight would be at 11:30 p.m. 3. This rule has many exceptions, which are further explained in the Tawdih al-Masail and Rule 849. 4. In the Tawdih al-Masail, other rules have also been mentioned. For a better understanding of these rules, please refer to Rules 860 and after. 5. This rule refers to praying while standing in front of die grave with one's back to the grave of the Prophet. 5. Or Imma, a translator's note. To learn about more of the Mubtalat of Salat, one can refer to Rule 1135 in the Tawdih al-Masail. The Salat that is read alone, not in Jamaat, is called Salat al-Farada. This action of sitting up partially is called Tajavi. 9. This Salat is called Salat al-Istis. Zakat al-Fitr is one of the wajibat of property that must be given on the day of Eid al-Fitr. See issue 378. 11. For more information on the nafil of the daily Salat, please refer to the Tawdih al-Masail, rule number 758. Fasting, one of the other wajibats and yearly programs of Islam for the self-building of man, is fasting. In this act of worship, a person leaves various actions which will be explained shortly from the Adhan of Fajr until Maghrib, only in obedience for the command of Allah. Niyat for fasting. Issue 349. Fasting is one of the acts of worship and must be performed for the pleasure of Allah, thus also to comply with the order of Allah, and this is the niyat of fasting. Issue 350. A person is able to specify the niyat every night for the month of Ramadan for the following fast, but it is better than the niyat be made on the first night of the month for all the fasts of the complete month. Issue 351. It is not necessary that the niyat be recited with the tongue, rather, even that amount is enough that one is performing the action for the wish of Allah, and that from the adhan of Fajr until Maghrib, those actions that make the fast void will be avoided. The things that make the fast void. Issue 352. The person fasting must avoid certain acts from adhan of Fajr until Maghrib, and if one of these acts is performed, the fast will become void. The collection of these actions is referred to as the things which make the fast void, and they are the following. 1. Eating and drinking. 2. Having a thick dust or smoke reach the throat. 3. Placing the complete head underwater. 4. Vomiting. 5. Other than the things listed above. There are also other actions that make the fast void, and one who would like to learn these additional things can refer to the Tawdi Home Masail, rule number 1608 for more information. The rules of those things that make the fast void. Eating and drinking. Issue 353. If the person who is fasting intentionally cuts or drinks something, his fast will become void. Issue 354. If someone intentionally swallows some food that is stuck between the teeth, the fast will become void. Issue 355. Swallowing the saliva that is in the mouth does not make the fast void, no matter how much is swallowed. Issue 356. If the person who is fasting accidentally cuts or drinks something he does not remember that he is fasting, the fast will not become void. Issue 357. A person is able not to break his fast if he feels weak, but if his weakness is to such an extent that normally one cannot tolerate it, then there is no problem in breaking the fast. Having an injection. Issue 358. Having an injection or getting serum does not make the fast become void. Allowing thick dust or smoke to reach the throat. Issue 359. If thick dust reaches the throat of a person who is fasting, according to Ihtiyat Wajib, the fast will become void, whether the dust is a dry dust like flour or something that is not dry like mud. Placing the complete head underwater. Issue 360. If a person who is fasting submerges his entire head underwater, then according to Ihtiyat Wajib, the fast will become void. But it is not far from possibility that this action does not make the fast void. Issue 361. If a person who is fasting is forced into the water not by his own will, and his complete head goes under the water, or if he forgets that he is fasting and submerges his head underwater, his fast will not become void. However, as soon as he remembers that he is fasting, he must immediately take his head out of the water. Vomiting. Issue 362. Any time a person who is fasting intentionally vomits, even if it is done due to some sickness, the fast will become void. Issue 363. If a fasting person does not remember that he is fasting, or if he is forced to vomit, then the fast will not become void. The qada and the kafara of the fast. The qadai fasts. Issue 364. If someone does not fast during the month of Ramadan, or his fast becomes void, he must make up the qada of these fasts after the month of Ramadan. Kafara of the fasts. Issue 365. Someone who makes his fast become void without a valid excuse by committing one of the things that breaks the fast must perform the qada of the fast and also fulfill one of the following acts which are referred to as the kafara of the fasts. 1 must free a slave. 1 must fast for 2 months, of which 31 days must be continuous. 1 must feed 60 poor people, or give 1 mud of food to each of them. If a kafara becomes wajib on somebody, one of the above 3 mentioned acts must be performed, and because in today's day and age, the freeing of a slave is not applicable in terms of fiqh, the second or third penalty must be performed. However, if one does not have the ability to perform any of these, then one must give sadaqah in the amount that one is able to, and if one is not even able to do this, then one must ask forgiveness from Allah. SWT. The rules of the qada and the kafara of the fast. Issue 366. It is not necessary that the qada of the fur be performed immediately, but according to Ihtiyat Mustahab, it should not be delayed until the next Ramadan. Issue 367. One must not be negligent about giving the kafara, but it is not necessary that the performing of the kafara be done immediately, and if a few years pass before it is performed, nothing has to be added to the kafara. Issue 368. If someone does not fast due to an excuse such as traveling, and after the month of Ramadan the excuse goes away, and until the next Ramadan, intentionally one does not make up the qada fur, then in addition to making up the qada fast, One must also give 1 mud of food to a poor person for each fast that was missed. Issue 369. If someone is not able to fast due to sickness and this sickness continues until the next Ramadan, then the qada of the fast is removed from the responsibility of the person. However, one must give 1 mud of food to a poor person for every fast that was missed. The fast of the traveler. Issue 370. The traveler who must reduce his salat from 4 rakat to 2 rakat during his journey is not allowed to fast while he is traveling, but he must perform the qada of the fast. As for the traveler whose salat is prayed in full, he must fast while he is traveling, for example, the person whose profession is traveling. Issue 371. If a person who is fasting travels after Zuhr, then according to Ayat Wajud, he must continue with his fast, and it will be valid. Issue 372. If a person who is fasting travels before Zuhr, once he reaches the head tarakas, meaning he reaches to the point where he cannot beat the adhan of his city and he cannot see the people of his city, then his fast will become invalid. However, if before he reaches this spot, he does something to make his fast become void, then along with performing qada of the fast, a kafir also becomes wajib upon him. Issue 373. There is no problem with traveling during the holy month of Ramadan, but if it is done to avoid fasting, then it is makruh. Issue 374. If a traveler reaches his home place watan or a place where he intends to stay for 10 days before Zuhr, then in the event that he has not committed an act that makes the fast become void, he must fast. And if he have committed an act that makes the fast void, then it is not wajib for him to fast that day, but afterwards, the qada of that fast must be made up. Issue 375. If a traveler reaches his warren or a place where he intends to stay for 10 days after Zuhr, it is not permitted for him to fast on that day. Zakat al-Fitr. Issue 376. Once the month of Ramadan has come to an end, meaning on the day of Eid-ul-Fitr, one must give an amount of one's own wealth to the poor, with the niyat of Zakat al-Fitr. The amount of Zakat al-Fitr. Issue 377. For oneself and for those who are one's dependents, for example one's spouse and children, one must give 1 sa per person, which is approximately 3 kilograms as zakat. The items that can be given for Zakat al-Fitr. Issue 378. The items that can be given as Zakat al-Fitr are things such as wheat, barley, dates, raisins, rice, corn, and other things like this. And if one gives the value of these things in cash, it will be sufficient too. 1 mud of food is approximately 10 or 750 grams of wheat or barley or things like this. One of the economic responsibilities of the Muslims is paying khums, which means that on certain items 1/5 or 20% must be paid to the mujtahid to be used for specific things. Issue 379. Khums is wajib on 7 things. Profit or gains from earnings. Minerals. Dryers. Spoils of war. Gems that have been obtained from the sea by diving. The halal wealth that is mixed with haram wealth. The land which a kafir dhimmi, a non-Muslim living under the protection of the Islamic government, purchases from a Muslim. Issue 380. Just like salat and fasting, the paying of khums is one of the wajibat, and anyone who possesses one of the 7 things listed above must act according to that which will follow in relation to the paying of khums. One of the instances of khums that include most people in the society is giving khums on that which exceeds a person and his family's yearly expenses, benefits/profit from working. Islam respects a person working and earning, and therefore allows the necessity of one's needs over that of paying the khums. Therefore, one who can secure his financial needs from his earnings, and if after securing his financial needs, nothing remains at the end of the year, khums will not be obligatory on him. But if after working out all the normal expenses for his life and the maintenance of his family according to his social status and needs, and without being extravagant or miserly, if something remains at the end of the year, 1/5 or 20% of that which remains must go toward the specified expense of khums, and 4/5 80% of the amount that is left can be put into one's savings. The rules of khums. Issue 381. Until khums has been paid on one's property, one is not able to spend from that property, meaning one is not allowed to eat that food on which khums has not been taken out on, and similarly one is not allowed to spend that money on which khums has not been taken out on to buy things. Issue 382. If at the end of the year, the provisions or foods such as rice, oil, or tea that had been purchased from one's wealth for use during the year remain in excess, my extra remains, then khums must be paid on them the excess. Issue 383. If a non-baligh child has some money, and from that money receives a profit, the paying of the khums becomes wajib on the child's guardian, and if he does not pay the khums for this property, then once the child becomes baligh, he must pay the khums. The spending of khums. Issue 384. The khums is to be divided into two portions, half of which is called Sam Imam Az-Zamaneh and must be given to the mujtahid who is Jam al-Sharit or his representative, and the other half which must be given to poor Sayyids or Sayyids who are orphaned or a Sayyid who has been stranded on a trip. What? The Christians, Jews and Zoroastrians that have made a contract with the Islamic ruler that they will pay a certain amount of money in tax, and that they will accept the specific conditions that are listed in the detailed books of fiqh, are called kafir himi, and their lives and properties are protected in exchange for paying the tax and accepting the conditions. One of the other important economical responsibilities of the Muslims is the paying of zakat. As for the importance of zakat, it is enough for us to mention that in the glorious Quran, after the mentioning of salat, zakat is mentioned and it is counted as one of the signs of faith and righteous actions. In countless hadith from the Masumina, it has been narrated that someone who does not pay the zakat is out from the religion. Zakat, just like khums, has its own specific instances. One part of the zakat is a tax or custom on the body and life, such that once a year, for those people who have the ability to pay this tax from the viewpoint of property, it becomes wajib on them on the day of Eid al-Fitr. The rules related to this type of zakat were explained at the end in section of fasting. The other division of zakat is the zakat on wealth. But it is not that this is necessary or included on all the property of a person. Rather, zakat is only wajib on 9 things. Issue 385. The things that zakat is wajib to be paid on are the following: wheat, barley, dates, raisins, camels, cows, goats, gold and silver, and properties of the trader's business goods, with the conditions that have been explained in the Tadihul Masail. Issue 386. Zakat becomes wajib in the event that the object that zakat must be paid on reaches a certain quantity. These amounts have been given in the following table. A brief note: camels, cows, sheep, gold, and silver also have other quantities that zakat becomes wajib on, and for a complete listing of these rules, one can refer to the Tadihul Masail. The rules of zakat. Issue 387. If for the complete year the animals graze from the grass of the wilderness, zakat will become wajib on these animals. Therefore, if during the year, or for a part of the year, the grass is plucked or picked or that which is cultivated is eaten, then zakat will not be paid on these animals. Issue 388. The zakat of gold and silver becomes wajib in the event that the amount reaches 1/6 that which one can do business with. Therefore, because of this, the amount that women possess these days in use does not have any zakat liable on it. Issue 389. Paying the zakat is one of the acts of worship and must be given with the intention of zakat and with the niyat of being paid for the pleasure of Allah SWT and in compliance with His rule. The disposal of zakat. Issue 390. There are 8 ways that the zakat can be disposed of, and one ran dispose of one's zakat in all or some of these ways. The following are some of the places that zakat can be disposed. It can be given to the poor and destitute. It can be given to an indebted person who is unable to repay his debt. It can be given to those non-Muslims who, if zakat is given to them, they may become inclined to Islam, or they may help Muslims in the time of war. It may be spent in the way of Allah, meaning in those things that have a common benefit for the Muslims. For example, building a well, bridge, or masjid. 1. For more information on the disposal of zakat, one can refer to the Taw'ihul Nas-Il, rule number 1953. The rules of buying and selling. Issue 391. It is recommended that the person who is involved in trading learn the rules of buying and selling that he will commonly have a need for. Issue 392. Buying and selling. Watching over, writing, reading, and teaching those books that can lead people astray is haram, unless it is done for a good reason, such as to answer or reply questions raised in these books. Issue 393. Selling a product that has been mixed with something else in the event that it becomes unclear what the product is, and if the seller of the product does not inform the purchaser, then it is haram. For example, ghee that has been mixed with it and then sold. Such an action is called gash. Issue 394. In transactions, the exact product that is being bought and sold must be specified, but it is not necessary to mention the specifics such that if stated or not, would have effect on the desire or inclination of the people in relation to that product. Issue 395. In the buying and selling of two things which we of the same type which are sold by weight or quantity, if more is sold, it is called riba and is haram. For example, one gives 1 ton of wheat and in return takes 1.2 tons. Issue 396. It is must-have that the person selling does not make a difference in the price between the people buying from him unless it is because one is a poor person or someone like this, and also one should not be firm in one's price, and if one wishes to cancel the transaction, one should agree to this. Issue 397. Taking an oath during transactions, if that which is said is true, is makruh, and if it is a he, then it is haram. Breaking or canceling a transaction. Issue 398. In some instances, the seller or buyer is able to cancel the transaction, and some of these instances included: the buyer or the seller has been cheated. If at the time of the transaction, it had been specified that for a specific period of time, either parties or even one of the two parties is allowed to cancel the transaction. For example, at the time of buying and selling, it is stated that if either person is worried or has anxiety over the transaction, then for 3 days once the deal is made, one is able to break the contract. The seller and the buyer have not separated from each even if they have left the place of the transaction. The object that had been bought was defective, and after the transaction, it was noticed. The seller explained the item to the person buying the product, who himself did not see the product's specialties, and later on it was noticed that it was not as the seller had explained it to be. For example, it was said to the buyer that this notebook has 200 pages, and later it was found to have less than this amount. Issue 399. If after a transaction, one notices a defect in the product and right away does not break the deal, rather delays in this, then later on one does not have the right to break the transaction. Loans. Giving a loan is one of the must-have acts that has been highly emphasized in the Quran and Ahadith. And on the day of judgment, the one who had given a loan will receive a great reward from Allah SWT. The divisions of giving a loan. Durational loan. At the time of giving the loan, it had been specified when the loan will be paid back. Non-durational loan. The time when the loan will be paid back is not specified. The rules of giving a loan. Issue 400. If the loan is given with a specific period of time stated, and the person giving the loan specifies when it will be paid back, or both parties come to agreements, then the person who gave the loan cannot request the loan back before the time period agreed upon. Issue 401. If the loan is given without a specific period of time when it will be paid back, then the person who had given the loan can ask for it back any time. Issue 402. If the person who gave the time requests for the loan to be paid back, then in the event that the person who had taken the loan is able to pay it back, he must pay it back right away, and if he delays in its payment, he has committed a sin. Issue 403. If the person giving the loan makes a condition that after a period of time, for example after 1 year, he take back more than that which was given, or he will provide some service for him, this is rib, interest, and it is haram. For example, one gives 100,000 to an approximately $200.00 USD as a loan and makes die condition that after 1 year, one will take back 120,000 to an approximately $240.00 USD. Issue 404. If the person giving the loan does not make the condition that he will take more back, but the person who had taken the loan himself gives more back, this is no problem, and rather, this action is must-have. Custody or trust. If someone gives his property to another person and tells him that it is deposited in a trust, and the latter accepts it, they both must abide by the following rules. The rules regarding custody or trust. Issue 405. If someone will not be able to look after a deposited thing, and the person making the deposit is unaware of this, then the person must not accept the responsibility of the deposit. Issue 406. Someone who deposits something as a trust, whenever he wants to take it back, he is able to, and the person who accepted to look after the thing, whenever he wishes to give it back to its owner, he too is able to do this. Issue 407. Someone who accepts to look after something, if he does not have a safe and suitable place to keep the item, he must prepare one. Issue 408. The person taking care of a trust must look after the item in such a way that the people would not say that he is being disloyal, or that in the protection of the item, he has fallen short in looking after it. Issue 409. In the event that the trust of a person is lost, if the person looking after the trust did not pay attention in taking care of the trust, he must give or repay the owner for that which was lost. If in the taking of the trust, one was not negligent, and for other reasons that property got lost, for example, a wind took the item away, then the person who was the caretaker of the item, will not be responsible to pay it back to the owner. Issue 410. The person taking care of a property is not allowed to use the item, except with the permission of its owner. Lending and borrowing. Lending of something is that someone gives his own property to another person so that he may make use of it, and in exchange, one gets nothing back. For example, a person gives his bike to another person, so that the person may go to his house in return. Issue 411. Someone who lends something to another person can take it back whenever he wants to, and the person who has borrowed the item can give it back to its owner whenever he wishes to. Issue 412. If that which was lent out becomes lost or damaged, then in the event that in the protection of the item, care was shown, or in its use, excessive care was shown, one is not responsible for the item. But if one was negligent in taking care of the item, or in its use excessive care was not shown, then compensation must be paid to the owner. Issue 413. If it was previously specified that for whatever reason, the person borrowing the property would be responsible for it, then one must repay it if anything happens to that property. Items that are found. Issue 414. If someone finds something but does not take it, then no special responsibilities fall upon him. Issue 415. If something other than an animal is found, then the following rules will apply. If the item does not have my special signs which would help in finding its owner, then one is able to take it for oneself, but according to IKEA mustahab, one should give it away as sadaqah on behalf of the owner. If there are special as or over one, and the owner is not known, then according to IKEA it must be given away as sadaqah on behalf of the owner. And then the owner is found. Then if he is not had with the value, he had given away of that aqua one not give that owner to that which would given it aqua. If the value of the item is not less than 12.650 points of which ain't in the twine, and if the then I that ordinary one light into the owner for the first week, and an anthem be every day. At every week, if it must be an hour after week, but it didn't even that when you're an anthem dealers doesn't I found one able to keep it for dealers that whenever he's found, D equals he. Be given it to him, or can he give it out over in the name of the owner? And he wedge that hundred for oneself. Losing one's shoes. Issue 416. If someone's shoes are taken, and in their place another pair of shoes are left, then in the event that one knows that the shoes that are remaining are the property of the person who took his shoes, and this person will be content that the person whose shoes were taken takes his shoes in place of the stolen shoes, he can take these shoes and substitute for his own shoes that were taken. However, if he knows that his shoes were taken unjustly or without right, and if the value of the shoes that we left behind is not more than the value of his own shoes, he can take them in place of his own shoes. What? This amount of silver is approximately 2.52 grams, and at the time this book was being translated, the worth is approximately 300 tumen, or $0.60 USD. Usurpation. Usurpation is that a person, without permission and by oppression, takes possession of the property of another person. Usurpation is one of the major sins, and on the day of judgment the person who had committed usurpation will face a great punishment. Issue 417. If a person usurps something, not only has he committed a haram act, but he must return that property to its owner, and if he loses that thing, he must repay that what was lost. Issue 418. If the thing that was usurped becomes spoiled, one must give the equal value of that item. Issue 419. If that thing that was usurped changes, so that it is better than it was in the beginning, for example, a bike is repaired, if the owner of that property says that it was in such and such way, he must give it to him, and one is not allowed to take money for the trouble that one had gone through, and one does not have the right to change the thing to how it was in the beginning. Eating and drinking. Allah the Almighty has made the beautiful nature and all animals and fruits and green yet disposal of mankind for his own use, so that he is able to use these things for eating and drinking and covering himself to build his shelter and other necessities, but for the protection of man's life, and for the security of his body and soul, and for those to come after him, and to protect the rights of others. Laws and regulations have been laid down, of which some will be explained in this chapter that relate to eating and drinking. Issue 420. Eating those things which cause death and which are a harm to a person are haram. Issue 421. Eating and drinking those things which are najis are haram. Issue 422. Eating dirt is haram. Issue 423. Eating a very small amount of the dust from the grave of Sayyid ash-Shahada for shafa intercession from a sickness is not a problem. Issue 424. It is wajib for every Muslim to give those Muslims who are close to him, who may die from hunger or thirst, bread and water to save them from death. The etiquette of eating. Issue 425. The following actions, which are related to eating food, are must-have. 1. Washing the hands before and after eating. 2. Say Arabic ba Arabic C Arabic meme Arabic alif Arabic lam Arabica when starting to eat, and saying Arabic alif Arabic lam Arabic het Arabic meme Arabic dal Arabic lam Arabica when one is finished eating. 3. Eating with the right hand. 4. Eating small bites of food. 5. Chewing the food properly. 6. Washing the fruit before eating it. 7. If many people are sitting at the dinner table, whatever food is front of each person, that person should start with it. 8. The host should start eating before all others and should finish after all others. Issue 426. The following actions, which are related to eating food, are makruh. 1. Eating food even though one is full. 2. Eating to one's fill, eating too much food. 3. Looking at the faces of others while eating. 4. Eating hot food. 5. Blowing over hot food. 6. Cutting the bread with a knife. 7. Placing the bread under the dishes. 8. Throwing away fruit before it has been completely eaten. The etiquettes of drinking water. Issue 427. The following actions related to drinking water are must-have. 1. In the daytime, standing while drinking water. 2. Before drinking water, saying Arabic ba Arabic C Arabic meme Arabic alif Arabic lam Arabica and saying Arabic alif Arabic lam Arabic het Arabic meme Arabic dal Arabic lam Arabica when one is finished drinking. 3. Drinking water in 3 sips. 4. After drinking water, remembering Hadrat Imam Hussaini, his family, and his companions and cursing their killers. Issue 428. The following actions related to drinking water are makruh. 1. Drinking too much. 2. Drinking water after eating fatty foods. 3. Drinking with the left hand. 4. In the evening, drinking while standing. The rules of slaughtering. Issue 429. If the 4 large veins in the neck of a halal meat animal are completely cut from the bottom to the top, with the conditions that will be listed, that animal will be tahir and halal. The conditions for the slaughter. Issue 430. There are 5 conditions for slaughtering the animal. 1. The person who is conducting the slaughter must be a Muslim. 2. The animal must be slaughtered by an instrument made of iron. 3. At the time of the slaughter, the animal must be facing Qibla. 4. At the time of the slaughter, the name of Allah must be said, and even if just Arabic bat Arabic sin Arabic meme Arabic alif Arabic lam Arabic ha is said, this is sufficient. 5. After the animal has been slaughtered, it should move around a bit so that one can be sure that it was alive before being slaughtered. 6. The normal amount of blood should flow out of the body of the animal. Hunting by weapons. Issue 431. If a halal meat wild animal is hunted with a weapon by the conditions that he mentioned, it will be tahir and its meat will be halal. The weapon of hunting is something like a sharp dagger or knife or sword, or is something sharp or pointed like a dart or an arrow, and its sharpness is that so much so as to cut through the body of the animal. The person who is hunting the animal must be a Muslim. The weapon must be used for the hunt. So then if one is aiming for something else and then accidentally an animal is hit, that animal will not be halal. At the time of using the weapon, for example at the time of shooting die arrow, the name of Allah must be said. When one reaches to the animal must be dead, or there must not be enough time to slaughter the animal. So then, if the animal has not died, but there is enough time to slaughter the animal, but this is not done until the animal dies, it is haram. Issue 432. If a fish that has scales is taken out of the water alive, and it dies out of the water, it is tahir, and it is halal for consumption. But if it dies inside the water, even though its body is tahir, it is haram to catch it, unless it dies in the water in a net. Issue 433. If a fish that does not have scales is taken out of the water alive, and dies outside of the water, it is haram. Issue 434. It is not necessary that the person who goes to catch fish be a Muslim, and it's also not necessary that the name of Am be taken over the fish. Looking at others and marriage. One of the greatest gifts from Allah is the gift of sight. We must use this great blessing in the path toward perfection and to improve ourselves and others around us, and must prevent ourselves from looking at those people whom we are not allowed to look at. Although looking at the natural or apparent parts of the bodies, as long as it does not intrude on the rights of others, is not a problem. Protecting others from looking at others and protecting oneself from looking at others whom one is a non-mahram to has specifics of which some will be explained in this chapter. Issue 435. A mahram is that person who one is able to look at to a certain extent more than others, and with whom marriage is haram. Issue 436. The following people are mahram to a boy and to a man: mother and grandmother, daughter and the daughter of his child, tesser, niece daughter of his sister, niece daughter of his brother, aunt father's sister his own aunt, and his mother's and father's aunt, mother's sister his own aunt, and his mother's aid father's aunt. This group of people, by their own blood relations, are mahram, and another group are also mahram by marriage on the son or man. These include wife, mother-in-law, and grandmother, wife of the father, stepmother, wife of the son, the brother's wife, and the sister of the wife are non-mahrams. Issue 437. These people are mahram to the girl and woman, father and grandfather, son and the son of her child, brother, nephew, son of her sister, nephew, son of her brother, uncle, father's brother, her own uncle, and her mother's and father's uncle, uncle, mother's brother, her own uncle, and her mother's and father's uncle. This group of people, by their own blood relations, are mahram, and another group are also mahram by marriage on the girl or woman. These include husband, father-in-law, and the husband's grandfather, husband of the daughter, the husband of her sister, and the brother of her husband are non-mahrams. With the exception of those who have been listed, it is possible that others, by way of marriage, and with certain conditions, may become mahram of each other. These exceptions are mentioned in the detailed books of fiqh. Issue 438. If a woman breastfeeds a child by the specific conditions mentioned in the books of fiqh, that child will become a mahram of that woman and others. For a better understanding of this rule, please refer to the Islamic Laws Rule number 2473. Issue 439. With the exception of the husband and wife, it is haram to look at any other person with the intention of deriving pleasure, even if it is of the same sex. For example, a man looking at another man, or of the opposite sex. For example, a man looking at a woman, even if he/she is a mahram or a non-mahram, and this rule holds the same for looking at any part of the body. Issue 440. The boy and the man may look at the complete body of a woman who is their mahram with the exception of the private parts, and without the intention of deriving pleasure. Issue 441. The boy and the man are not allowed to look at the body and hair of a non-mahram woman, but to look at the hands, up to the wrist, and the face, in that amount that must be washed in wudu without the intention pleasure is no problem. Issue 442. The girl and woman are allowed to look at the head, face, hands, and feet of non-mahram men, as long as it is done without the intention of deriving pleasure, and as long as it is in the area not usually covered. Marriage. Issue 443. If someone feels he will fall into sin because of not being married, for example, he/she will look at a non-mahram, it is wajib to get married. Issue 444. In marriage, the specific formula must be recited, and it is not sufficient for the boy and girl to be content with each other. The means of this, until the formula for marriage has not been recited, neither are mahram to each other, and to other women there is no relation to be considered as a mahram to them. Issue 445. If even one letter is pronounced incorrectly in the marriage formula so that it changes its meaning, the marriage formula and marriage is void. The rules of greeting one another. Issue 446. It is mustahab to greet one another, but it is wajib to reply to the greeting. Issue 447. It is makruh to say greet someone who is praying salat. Issue 448. If someone says salam to one who is in salat, the reply must be given exactly as it was originally worded. For example, if it is said, Arabic day, Arabic lam, Arabic yat, Arabic kaf, Arabic meme, Arabic alif, Arabic lam, Arabic sin, Arabic lam, Arabic alif, Arabic meme, the reply must be given as Arabic sin, Arabic lam, Arabic alif, Arabic meme, Arabic day, and Arabic lam, Arabic yat, Arabic kaf, Arabic meme. But if the greeting is Arabic alif, Arabic lam, Arabic sin, Arabic lam, Arabic alif, Arabic meme, Arabic day, and Arabic lam, Arabic yat, Arabic kaf, Arabic meme, the ihtiyat wajib is that the reply be given as Arabic sin, Arabic lam, Arabic alif, Arabic meme, Arabic dain, Arabic lam, Arabic yet, Arabic kaf, Arabic meme. Issue 449. It is not permissible for one who is reading Dai Salat to say salam to another person to initiate it. Issue 450. The reply to a salam must be given immediately. Issue 451. The reply to a salam must be answered in a way that the recipient can hear it. But if one who says salam is different if he gave his salams and he went away, and if it is possible to reply to a gesture another way that the other person can comprehend your reply, it is meant to arrive in this way, and in any other interest, it is not necessary to reply. And if in the state it is full, it is not permitted to reply in another way. Issue 452. If two people say salam to each other at the same time, then according to Ayat Wajib, both must reply to the salam of the other. Etiquette of greeting one another. Issue 453. It is must-have that one who is riding should greet the one who is walking, and the one who is standing should greet the one who is sitting, and a small group of people should greet a large group of people, and the younger ones should greet the older ones. Issue 454. It is a must-have except in salat to reply to the salam in a better manner, So then, if someone sisti you Arabic scene, Arabic lam, Arabic alif, Arabic meme, Arabic dayin, Arabic lam, Arabic yet, Arabic kaf, Arabic meme, it is must have to reply by saying Arabic scene, Arabic lam, Arabic alif, Arabic meme, Arabic day, Arabic lam, Arabic yet, Arabic kaf, Arabic meme, Arabic wayo, Arabic cat, Arabic meme, Arabic tatmab, Arabic alif, Arabic lam, Arabic kaf. Issue 455. It is makruh for a man to say salam to a woman, especially a young woman. The rules of the Quran. Issue 456. The Quran must always be kept clean and tidy, and it is haram to make the writing or the pages of the Quran najis, and if it is najis, it must be washed with water immediately. Issue 457. If the cover of the Quran is made najis, and it is seen as disrespect to the Quran, it must be cleaned with water. Touching the script of the Quran. Issue 458. It is baram to touch the Quran by any part of the body fixed someone who does not have wudu. Issue 459. In touching the writing of the Quran, there is no difference between the ayat and words. Rather, even the letters or even vowel points on the letters. Issue 460. There is no difference on what the Quran is written on, be it paper, ground, or the wall or cloth. Issue 461. There is no difference in how the Quran is written, be it by pen or by a computer printer, chalk, or other things. Issue 462. Even if the writing of the Quran is not in the Quran itself, touching it too is haram. So then, if an ayah of the Quran is written in a book, rather even if one word is found on a piece of paper, or even half a word from a page of the Quran or another book is ripped out, touching this without wudu is haram. Issue 463. The following instances do not constitute touching the script of the Quran and will not be haram. Touching the script of die Quran covered by glass or plastic. Touching the pages of the Quran and the cover and around the writing margins although it is makruh. Touching the translation of the Quran in any language except the name of Allah in any language. Touching the name of Allah is haram for one who does not have wudu. For example, the Persian word Arabic head, Arabic dal, Arabic alif, or Allah in English. Issue 464. Touching the script of the Quran for one who is a junub is haram. Issue 465. It is not permitted for a junub to recite one of the 4 ayats that contain a wajib sajda as was explained in Rule 111. Taking an oath. Issue 466. If someone takes an oath by one of the names of Allah, or Allah that he will perform or leave a certain act. For example, one takes an oath that he will pray a 2 rakat salat. It is wajib for him to perform this action. Issue 467. If intentionally one does not act immediately on his oath, he must give a kafara penalty. The kafara for this delay is one of 3 things. 1. Freeing 1 slave. 2. Feeding 10 poor people. 3. Clothing 10 poor people. 4. And if one is not able to perform either of these 3, one must fast for 3 consecutive days. Issue 468. If a person takes oath and his words were true, it is makruh to take that oath, and if he is lying, this oath is haram and is a major sin. Now, all of the practical laws of Islam have not been included in this book. Rather, a good portion of the basic rules of Islam that the youth and young adults will need are not included in this small book. For those who are in need of more of the rules, we ask you to refer to the Islamic Laws, the English version of Tadhil Masail, published by the World Federation of KSIMC. Translation completed on February 3, 1998. Islamic Republic of Iran. Salim Bimji. Arabic scene, Arabic one, Arabic shots, Arabic mean, Arabic ba, Arabic meme, Arabic jim, Arabic shot. Glossary. Alam, the mujtahid considered most knowledgeable. Adil, the just individual. Akal, the sane person. Akam, legal rulings, laws. Plural of Hakam. Al-Bayt, the near relatives of the Holy Prophet mentioned in Quran 33:33 as the Al-Bayt as. They are Imam Ali, Fatima az-Zahra, Imam al-Hassan, and Imam al-Hussein, peace be upon them all. Al-Kitab, people of the scripture, a Quranic term used for Christians and Jews. Ayatollah al-Uzma, a grand or senior Ayatollah. Ain al-Najasat, an actual source of impurity, like blood. Adhan, the Islamic call to prayer. Ain al-Najasat, an actual source of impurity, like blood. Adhan, the Islamic call to prayer. Balig, a person reaching the age of legal maturity, a minimum of 10 years for girls and a maximum of 16 years for boys. Da, supplication, prayer. Eid, day of celebration, holiday. Eid al-Adha, the holiday commemorating the Prophet Ibrahim's intended sacrifice of his son, Ismail on the 10th of Zil-Hijjah. Eid al-Fitr, the holiday commemorating the end of the month-long fasting of the month of Ramadan on the 1st of Shawwal. Eid al-Gadir, the holiday commemorating the appointment of Imam Ali as the successor of the Holy Prophet on the 18th of Zil-Hijjah. Fajr, morning time before sunrise. Fakir, a poor person, meaning one who does not have his yearly expenses on hand nor the means to earn it properly. Farsak, a unit of measure equal to approximately 5.4 kilometers or 3.4 miles. Fiqh, Islamic law and jurisprudence. Fitra, an obligatory charity in the amount of 1 sa of food 3 kilograms / 6.6 pounds given to the needy on Eid al-Fitr. Firu, a branch as in a branch of religion, Firu ad-Din, meaning practical aspects of faith. That gas by, usurped, taken or used without ownership or proper permission of the owner. Ghusl, a bath according to Islamic law. Hajj, pilgrimage to the Holy Kaaba in Mecca to perform specific rites and ceremonies. Halal, lawful, permissible. Haram, those actions which must be avoided, and performing them incur punishment from Allah. Hijab, Islamic covering for women. Hijri, related to the Islamic calendar. Hijri, related to the Islamic calendar. Ijtihad mustab, a mujtahid, in addition to expressing his opinion in Thai form of a fatwa, also attaches an ijtihad mustahab to the ruling. The muqallid can act either according to the fatwa or the ijtihad mustahab and is not allowed to perform rujuk to another mujtahid. Ijtihad wajib, a mujtahid does not give a fatwa in a particular ruling, rather, he gives an ijtihad wajib, which means the muqallid can either act according to this ijtihad or perform rujuk to another living mujtahid. Intiqal, the transfer of an impurity, namely blood, from one person or animal to mother person by means of an insect. Iqama, part of the call to prayer recited to announce the actual beginning of the prayer. Istibra, the process of removing urine and semen from the urinary tract. Also, to quarantine impurity-eating animal until its system becomes clean again. Jari, flowing, as in ma'ul jari or flowing water. Jabra, a bandage, cast, splint, and similar things which cover a wound or breakage. Kaaba, the house of Allah, the holy sanctuary built by the Prophet Ibrahim in Mecca, the place which Muslims pray towards daily and where the pilgrimage Hajj is performed. Kafir, a non-Muslim. Kafara, an atonement, usually for the lapse of one's duties or inability to perform a certain obligation. Khums, an obligatory tax on excess wealth. Kur, a measurement of volume equal to approximated 102 US gallons. Maghrib, the time of sunset. Muharram, a related person, one who it's right permissible to marry due to blood relation or family affinity. Maida, an animal which has died on its own without proper slaughtering. Makkah, the birthplace of the Prophet of Islam and location of the Kaaba, direction toward which Muslims pray. Makra, those actions which are better not performed, and if avoided, earn a reward, but if performed, do not accompany a punishment. Masjid, a mosque. Mubah, those actions whose performance or turning away from are equal, meaning neither gets a reward nor punishment. Mud, a measurement equivalent to approximately 1.7 pounds or 3.50 kilograms. Mudhaf, mixed water. Mujtahid, an Islamic jurist capable of independent derivation of legal rulings from the Islamic sources of law. Mukallaf, one deemed as responsible and accountable under Islamic law. Mustahab, these are actions which are recommended to be performed and earn the person a reward, but turning away from such actions does not incur punishment from Allah. Mutahhir, such mutaharat, something capable of purifying impure substance, like water. Mutanajis, something which is contaminated by an impurity although not possessing the source of the impurity itself. Mutlaq, water, pure water. Mu'ala, continuity, meaning the actions must be performed with continuity and continuation. Nafila/nawafil, a voluntary prayer. Najasat, an impure substance according to Islamic law, like blood and urine. Najis, something containing a najasa, or an impurity. Nadar, a vow. Niyya, intention in matters of worship. Kata, the performance of a duty which has lapsed unperformed, like a prayer which was not performed in its proper time. Kalil, water, a small quantity of water that is less than a kur, or 102 US gallons. Qibla, the direction of the Holy Kaaba, the direction to which Muslims pray. Qiyam, the standing position in prayer. Qunut, the supplication made in prayer in the second rak'ah. Qaba, the intention to perform a duty only for the sake of Allah, to gain nearness to Him and fulfill one's duty. Rakat, one cycle in prayer. Ramadan, one of the holy months on the Islamic calendar in which Muslims fast during the daytime hours. Rukn, a pillar of prayer. Ruku, the bowing position in prayer. As Sayyid Salat, a descendant of the Bani Hashim, the Prophet's family branch of the Quraysh tribe. Also, the descendants of the Infallibles. Sam, a share, as in the two shares of Khums, Sam al-Imam and Sam as-Sadat, the share of the Imam and the share of the descendants of the Prophet. Sajda Sawa, two prostration that are performed to rectify some inadvertent mistakes committed during the prayer, like forgetting one prostration. Salat al-Ayat, the sign prayer, an obligatory prayer performed upon the occurrence of eclipses, earthquakes, and other extraordinary natural occurrences. Salat al-Asr, mid-afternoon prayer. Salat al-Eid, prayers of the two high celebrations of Eid Eid. Salat al-Fajr, the morning prayer, also called Salat as-Subh. Salat al-Laikiyat, the prayer of precaution, performed when one has doubt in the number of rak'at performed. Salat al-Isha, the evening prayer said after sunset when the sky darkens. Salat al-Jamat, congregational prayer. Salat al-Jum'ah, Friday prayer. Salat al-Layl, the late night prayer, usually performed after sleeping and before the morning prayer. Salat al-Maghrib, the sunset prayer. Salat al-Mayyit, the prayer for the deceased, also called Salat al-Amwat. Salat al-Musafir, the prayer of the traveler, meaning a prayer shortened from 4 rak'iyat to 2 rak'iyat due to traveling. Salat al-Shafa, 2 rak'at prayer, which is part of the 11 rak'iyat of the late night prayer. Salat al-Layl. Salat al-Zuhr, the noontime prayer. Salawat, to send salutations and prayers upon the Prophet Muhammad and his family, recited as Arabic Alif, Arabic Law, Arabic Lam, Arabic Meme, Arabic Sa, Arabic Law, Arabic Din, Arabic Law, Arabic Alif, Surah, Arabic Meme, Arabic Et, Arabic Meme, Arabic Dal, Arabic Wow, Arabic Alif Mount, Arabic Law, Arabic Meme, Arabic Et, Arabic Meme, Arabic Dal. Also, the plural of Salat. Sayyid, Sayyidah, male such female descendant of one of the 12 Aimah. Shahid, a martyr. Sahar, an early morning meal before beginning the fast at Fajr time. Sujud, prostration. Surah, a chapter of the Holy Quran. Takibat, the actions, etc., which follow the prayer. Tahir, pure according to the Islamic law. Taqlid, following a mujtahid in matters pertaining to the practical laws of Islam. Tartib, sequence, proper order. Tasbih, glorification. Brez, Tasbihat al-Arba, the zikr recited in the 3rd and 4th rak'ah of prayer. In place of Surah al-Hamdi. Tashahhud, the recitation of the Shahadatain in the prayer. Tayammum, dry purification used as a substitute of wudu and ghusl for specific reasons. Turba, soil. Turt. Ulama, scholars, plural of alim. The Muslims worldwide, the Muslim nation. Wajib, those actions which must be performed, and turning away from them incur Allah's punishment, for example Salat and Saum. Waqf, an Islamic trust. Wasiya, a will. Witr, the 1 rak'ah prayer that is part of the late night prayer. Salat al-Layl. Wudhu, a ritual of purification necessary before prayer and other acts of worship which require purification. Involves washing the face, arms from the elbows to the fingers, wiping the head and feet. Zakat, an obligatory and sometimes recommended charity given on animals, agriculture, and gold and silver. Zakat al-Fitra, an obligatory charity given to the poor after the month of fasting Ramadan. Zuhr, noon rhyme, or the noontime prayer. Salat Zuhr. Topic tags. Youth. 7. Author S. Sayyid Ali Hussaini Sistani 1. Translator S. Salim Bimji 6. Publisher S. Islamic Humanitarian Service IHS. Source URL https://www.alislam.org/ Simplified Islamic Laws Youth and Young Adults. Sayyid Ali Hussaini Sistani.